explain those Badlands. That's a hell of a name.
Mr. Vice President, I'm going off script again, I know, but I just want to personally thank you. We've been through some stuff. We've gone through some of the most complex military operations this country's ever conducted, and your steady hand and your leadership during those was a great source of strength for me. Thank you for your leadership. Thank you for your character. Thank you for your selfless service. Thank you for commitment. Thank you for being a mentor to me, Mr. Vice President.
It's called the swamp. And you know what happened? And you know what I did? A big favor. I caught the swamp. I caught them all. Let's see what happens. Nobody else could have done that but me. I caught all of this corruption that was going on, and nobody else could have done it. Did I get that one right? Every 4 years, we gather on these steps to carry out the orderly and peaceful transfer of power. Today's ceremony, however, has very special meaning, because today we are not merely transferring power from one administration to another, but we are transferring power from Washington, D.C., and giving it back to you, the people. For too long, a small group in our nation's capital has reaped the rewards of government, while the people have borne the cost. Washington flourished, but the people did not share in its wealth. This American carnage stops right here and stops right now. The forgotten men and women of our country will be forgotten no longer. From this day forward, a new vision will govern our land. From this day forward, it's going to be only America first.
This is a president of the United States who is a danger to the republic.
America first.
He knows he's an illegitimate president.
The oath of office I take today is an oath of allegiance to all Americans.
The great Trump recovery.
America will never be a socialist country. I will fight for you with every breath in my body.
Russia, Russian, pro-Russian, Russian, the Russians.
Russia.
And I will never, ever let you down.
A dangerous virus is spreading rapidly in China, and U.S. officials are very worried that it could come here.
This is really the worst attack we've ever had. This is worse than Pearl Harbor. This is worse than the World Trade Center. There's never been an attack like this.
The time for empty talk is over. Now arrives the hour of action. What they're doing is using COVID to steal an election. Together, we will make America strong again. You know what it's about? Fraud, fake ballots. We will make America wealthy again. They are trying to steal the election.
Now, under the leadership of President Trump, we are fully realizing President Kennedy's prescient view of Special Operations Forces.
We will make America proud again. And watch, please, those mail-in ballots. We will make America safe again. And in millions and millions of ballots. Their vote is under what they thought they needed. They're dumping more ballots in there, okay? And yes, together, we will make America great again. Thank you. God bless you. If we are right about the fraud, Joe Biden can't be president.
Congress, the chair declares the joint session dissolved.
Hold on, I gotta finish combing my beard.
Do you use the word
Get the logo in
comb
there.
with a brush? Brushing your beard.
There we go. Can you see the logo better?
You know what it
I
looks
just
like
got
is
it
one of
today,
those
so I'm
horse-
trying to. What was
Ever
that?
brushed a horse?
Yeah, I have. My uncle actually owns horses, and we've ridden them before. I almost killed one of his horses once. I mean, technically, it almost killed itself, but it would have been my fault because I was riding it.
Kind of weird.
They're big. They're fun. Yeah, we were like climbing a hill. It's not a mountain in North Dakota, but a butte, whatever you call them. And I was like walking the horse, and he stepped into his reins, and I like got stuck around his leg, and he was like hopping around on the side of this hill, and could have been bad. But luckily, my uncle was on the ball. Anyway, welcome everybody to the Wednesday edition of the Devolution Power Hour. As always, and unfortunately, I'm joined by Burning Bright. Burning Bright, how are you doing this evening?
Pretty good. It's been a weird time in the info war lately, but
An understatement.
I'm feeling all right. It's funny. I'm annoyed by some things in the narrative, but then I keep finding things I'm interested in.
Yeah.
So I'm like, and that kind of, been in a bit of a digging mood or writing mood lately. And then when I surface from some of those writings, I'm like, what the fuck's going on up here? And then it's like, there's a bunch of shit going on. So yeah, but
then you immediately wish you didn't pop your head up for air.
Yeah. You're like,
It is weird. Like I feel like we went through like almost a 5 to 6 month period where it felt like a lull. Like there were things happening, but I don't want to say boring's the right word, but it was fucking boring. You know what I mean? Like it was just, it was repetitive.
Stagnant.
Yeah, stagnant. That's a good word. It's a good word. But now we're finally getting like some of the narratives from 2020, like some devolution-y narratives coming back around full circle, especially the election ones.
Yeah.
And it's just my jimmies have been, I would say, quite rustled the last 2 weeks or so.
Yeah, I've noticed. But I get it. It's also been strange, which kind of dovetails into some of what we'll talk about tonight. Because of those narratives coming back around, like some of that's in a good way. I think most of it's in a good way. It's good overall that 2020 election is back in the cycle. I think it's good that a lot of these things are back in the cycle. But, I don't know. I guess the reaction of kind of the InfoWar battle space to these things being back in the cycle is not what I would have thought if you told me a year ago. A year ago, if you were like, 2020 election fraud is going to be back in the news cycle, how are people going to be reacting to it in the quote-unquote truth community? I'd be like, oh, probably all in a similar way. We need to do this. These are the steps we need to take. And I feel that way about a lot of these things. But yeah, especially Epstein. But
yeah, that's what's kind of like muddy in the waters right now. And this will probably be a good topic. Like I don't want to talk about the Epstein files necessarily, but I think it might be worth spending a little time discussing some of like the behaviors I'm seeing, the trends I'm seeing from the MAGA movement as a whole. And this won't necessarily be a repeat of what we talked about on Sunday, because we had a pretty good discussion on Sunday's narrative, but this is a different angle and something I talked a little bit about on my show today, and I think you'd be able to provide some good discussion points too. But then we have some election stuff we'll talk about. We have some stuff around the Epstein files, not the Epstein files necessarily themselves, but like Pam Bondi being in front of Congress.
Right.
We have some foreign stuff,
some energy stuff. I want to talk about a little bit. That's kind of what I've been thinking about the last 24 hours. But just as an example, even saying that, like, I know there's some people watching that are like, oh, that sounds really exciting, right? But then there's like 90% of people, and I'm not even criticizing it, that are like, oh, the Bondi thing was very dramatic, right? Like, and I think there's a normal reaction. You're getting ready for a show. We've been doing our own research. We've been seeing the battle space. People come to a show like this or any Badlands show, and they've probably got the big narratives in their head, right? Usually that's what we talk about, and we will talk about those things, whether it's Epstein or Bondi or the election fraud, etc. But what I have found kind of funny, and I think maybe the reason I'm having trouble putting it into words of saying I'm feeling good, but there's a disconnect between how I'm feeling and how kind of the InfoWar battle space is feeling, And when I say, oh, I want to talk about energy stuff, it's not just because I'm interested in it. It's because I think if the battle space was not so flooded with the dramatic stuff, I'm not saying there's no merit to that stuff, but it's dramatic, right? It's contentious and dramatic at the very least. Bondi, Epstein, that's probably the most obvious thing. The election fraud stuff is still a contentious narrative. That when I see what I think are incredibly bullish, signal deployments coming out of what Trump is doing in this other theater, nobody's talking about it. Nobody's thinking about it. Nobody's talking about it. And that's why it's strange. On the one hand, that makes me feel worse about the info war and about the truth community of what they're focusing on. But that's also selfish. I'm interested in these other things. Yeah. But on the other hand, it can make me feel positive of being like, no matter how much bullshit seems to be flooding the zone from all sides, there are these real signals, actual signals going on. The Trump administration is still doing, even though we criticize a lot of stuff. It's like the fact that they're rolling back these energy things that we'll get into are massive. It just demonstrates to me that they're actually not getting distracted, even though it seems like their whole base is extremely distracted.
Yeah, we'll get into this because I do think there's like layers to the Trump administration. Like there's what's actually going on with Trump and those in his actual inner circle, and then there's almost just like social media influencers, and all they do is like stuff on social media, and people respond to that how they will. But that's the behavior I want to get into after we get a quick word from a couple of our sponsors. I feel like did we already get replaced by Fresh and Fit?
I think we immediately got replaced. Yeah.
Man, or no, the You're the Voice podcast. Never heard of that.
Somebody new. They're not even live either.
With Senator Alex Antic? Never heard of that guy. Anyway, whatever. We'll move on. But let's get a quick word from a couple of our sponsors. We have a few tonight, so let's start with some Native Path. I want to take a second to talk about Native Path collagen. First of all, collagen isn't just about nails or skin. As we get older, our bodies stop producing as much of this critical protein, starting in our late 20s, as a matter of fact, and that's when joints can start aching. Recovery slows down, and everything just feels that much harder. The specific collagen is grass-fed, pasture-raised, and designed to support joints, bones, mobility, skin, and hair, all the stuff we tend to lose with age. No weird taste, no complicated routine. Just add it to your coffee or smoothie, and bam, you're done. It's just part of your daily routine. Right now, you can get a special bundle deal at a fraction of the retail price and free shipping. This offer is only available at getnativepath.com/badlands. That's getnativepath.com/badlands. So if you've been thinking about supporting your body instead of just pushing it through the aches, go check it out. The link is in the description of this video. Again, getnativepath.com/badlands. And we also have Patriot Protect right off the rip. Today, it's scarily easy for criminals, scammers, or anyone with bad intentions to find your personal information online. Your home address, phone number, workplace, even your family members' names are exposed with just a few clicks. When this much information is public, scams are not random. Hundreds of people search sites and data brokers compile profiles linking your name, address, phone number, relatives, and online behavior. Scammers use these profiles to decide who to target and how to approach them. That's how identity fraud starts. Long before the damage shows up, Patriot Protect removes your personal data from the internet, wiping it from Google and every major website where bad actors search for targets. Patriot Protect finds and deletes your personal information from 240 plus people search engines and data brokers. And once your profiles are eliminated, their search and destroy protocols run continuously, monitoring, so every new exposure is detected and wiped immediately. It's the peace of mind of having your own security team, all for about the cost of keeping your porch lights on. So if you want to take control of your personal information and reduce your exposure online, go to patriot-protect.com/DPH. That is patriot-protect.com/DPH. Use code BADLANDS for 15% off all Patriot Protect plans. Like I said, we'll get to a couple other sponsors here in a little bit. But okay, so before we get into like the devolution topics, let's start with more of a conceptual, community-based, like this is what I'm seeing, and it's never been so obvious. We've been kind of talking about this for a while, but today on my show, and after the last couple days or so of social media and some of the things I've posted, especially since the Epstein files have come out, it's exposed a behavior quite like it's very obvious now. So I've been approaching these Epstein files in a manner that I think is like, okay, I'm just going to pursue what is the truth based on everything I'm seeing. Like one of the first things that came out was, Jeffrey Epstein had a bank account named Ball, and so this proves the Satan worshiping stuff. And then you dig into it, and it's like, well, if you actually looked, there is the original bank receipt or whatever, and it says bank name, not Ball name. And so this is like clickbait. This is not accurate. And people double down, defend. They call you a pedophile protector. All these things, just weird. It's like, I'm just pointing out the truth here. That's what I thought we were pursuing in the truth community, right? The truth. But no, you get attacked because you're pointing out something that goes against somebody's confirmation bias, what they want that to be. And I've been doing that with everything. And for a whole week and a half or two, I'm getting called a Jew. I'm getting called a pedophile protector. I had somebody say that I should have my hard drives checked. Like, just weird shit for just trying to like pursue the truth. Like, that's legitimately what I'm trying to do is what you're showing me is not true. I'm going to show you what is true and what I actually found, or at least how I interpret it. Maybe there is some times where, I interpret it this way, you interpret it one way, but a lot of these things that I'm pointing out are just the facts here is you're misrepresenting what you're saying. And so that was one side of things. And then the other side of things, like one of my most recent posts today, which we're going to go through this in a little bit, but we've had a lot of, narratives being pushed about the SAVE Act, especially lately. I think the House actually voted on it today and got it through the House. It's going to go to the Senate. I doubt they're going to pass it, but you never know. We'll see what happens. But I had this post where it's like, yo, the SAVE Act, it's a good start, Save America Act, but let's not pretend it would actually legitimize our election system. And I list a whole bunch of reasons as to why. And then this is met with people calling me a doomer or a black pillar, or people telling me to like, hey man, just trust the plan. Like you just sit back, like literally just sit back and relax. When we get to it, I can just show you here. I had this guy, F Marcus or the captain. I don't know which one. Yeah, it was this one. We're going to have hand counted paper ballots. This stuff is all gamed out. Sit back and watch it happen. And I ended up like actually asking him, like, just to be clear, you want me to literally sit back and not do anything? And he goes, yeah, there's really not anything to do except opine. This shift will change eventually. No one can change the outcome. I was like, okay. And then
that's why we're all here, right? Is to not take any action or in any way, nor talk about what we think needs to happen for the future of the country.
I gotta show you another one, because another one was just like a terrible thing to say to somebody. Like, I don't know why somebody would be so awful. Like right here. Maybe he deleted it. From Chad Calder or whatever. You will never be happy and die sad. And I'm just thinking to myself, right. What? Well, he might be right, but like that's just an awful thing to say to somebody generally. like what? But anyway, so this highlights like the behavior I've been recognizing, and that I think we've been trying to describe since Trump got inaugurated, because we've been talking about cheerleaders, and we've been talking about the doomers, and like the mega movement, the truth community has now formed itself into like two camps. It's like a spectrum of people. And I have a meme for this. I just haven't posted it yet because I'm still workshopping a few things of it. But if you think of the truth community as a spectrum, on one end, you have the cheerleaders. And they're like, everything's great. Trust the plan. Taxes are amazing. Like full control. Yes. And they're like yelling at everybody else. Like, if you don't agree with us, you're a doomer. You're like all these things. Like, you're a black pillar. You're a doomer because not everything is great to you. Then the other side of the spectrum are the black pillars. And these people are like, everything sucks. We're all going to die. There's literally nothing good that can be gleaned from anything. And if you disagree with us, you're a Jew or you're Mossad or whatever. Like,
there is no plan at all. Nobody's nobody's doing anything.
Yeah. Those are the two spectrums. Okay. And what's ironic about it is, in the truth community, if you are not in one of those camps and you're in the middle and you're trying to pursue truth. Like you're earnestly trying to figure out what's going on. You're using first principles, and you're trying to follow that path at all times, even though you're never going to get it right. Nobody's ever going to get it perfectly, but that's what you're attempting to do. Those sides will attack you because for doing that. And that's what this last 2 weeks have really like highlighted for me, is trying to pursue truth within the truth community makes you an enemy. And there are zero social incentives behind taking that approach, which is so weird. All these social incentives are on the cheerleading side or the blackpilling side. You're either all in or all out. And that is where the social and financial incentives are. But in the middle, we don't get any of that stuff. And part of that's nice. Like, we don't have to cuck to anybody. We don't have to take money from anybody to put a message forth. We are literally supported by you guys. So your guys' generosity is like truly appreciated, and we're humbled by it, because without you guys, we wouldn't be able to do what we do. But it's literally that's how we're funded, is through the people who believe in what we're doing and trying to do. But we become the enemies for pursuing actual truth from other people in the truth community. I just find that to be the most ironic thing of all time.
Yeah, it's well said. We had a different version, different pathway of discussing some of this Sunday night, like you said. If anybody hasn't seen that, go back and check it out. I think it was a good one. I got a little spicy in my little solo section afterwards that wasn't really planned. But yeah, in addition to what you said, I think, we are aware as well that when we're talking about these things, you're talking about our audience. And I think that this is a bit of a Badlander symptom. It's not just us, it's a lot of people in our audience feel this way too, right?
Yeah.
It's amplified for us because obviously there's a lot of people that are engaging with our commentary, whether that's on broadcasts like this or on social media or something. We put the stuff out there, you live by the sword, you die by the sword. You put stuff out there, it gets traction, it gets attention. You're going to open yourself up to criticism, which is totally fine. That comes with the territory. So I think at times that it can feel amplified for us in a way that maybe it doesn't for some people watching the show, even though, because I do see most of the chat, a lot of times when we have discussions like this, they enjoy the discussions and they feel the same way on a micro level. They're like, yeah, I've seen that too. Maybe the reason that they don't get upset by it or affected by it in the same way is because they're not personally being bombarded with emotional attacks for these things, right? And that's not a boo-hoo take. That's just me rationalizing. Maybe there is at times a disconnect, not in how we feel about narratives compared to much of our audience, even though we do disconnect sometimes, but in how, or what we think about it rather, but in how we feel about it. Because again, we're being directly targeted by a lot of this kind of stuff. People see us as representative of one or the other, right? The irony of what you're saying too, when you're talking about the two camps, the cheerleaders and the doomers, not only do they both attack whoever's in the middle, let's say a Badlander, but each one calls the Badlander part of the other camp.
Yeah.
That's what's kind of funny, right? It's not just like the all bad camp, the black pillars are saying, you're in the middle, you need to pick a side. And it's not like the cheerleaders are saying, you're in the middle, you need to pick a side. The all bad camp, the black pillars are saying, we push hopium. And then the hopium crowd is saying, we're black pillars.
Yeah.
And I think I had said before the show, I think a microcosm of this in this week, and the reason it bothers me, and I went on the rant I went on Sunday night, is when you see something like the Pam Bondi hearing, whatever you think of Bondi, whatever you think of certain characters in the administration, what I find ironic is many of the responses you're highlighting in your social media feed that are attacking you, the same pattern is going on writ large nationally. Where what I mean by that is Pam Bondi and the Trump administration are being attacked and basically being called guardians of the pedophiles, to use a kind of Q refrain, right? And the funny thing is, when you look at the comments, it usually is really obvious in most of these narratives who is kind of a lefty, never Trump retard,
Yeah.
and who is a truther, right? A MAGA truther, Q-op type of person. Right now, I think the lines between those things have been blurred because some of the people that were responding to you about your criticism of Epstein file decodes, my immediate reaction would be, oh, this must be a Q person who's really upset that you're criticizing a decode, right? But then it would be like a Biden voting never Trump liberal. That would be, you go into their profile, you look at their history, and you're like, oh man, this is a normie liberal that's in here. But they'd be saying the same thing to you that a decoder is saying to you. And sometimes, I've said this in various ways for years, that when you find yourself arguing from the same premise as your ideological opposition, you maybe need to reevaluate how you're communicating or how you're coming off. And I would apply that to the whole truth community right now, or to big parts of it, of saying, whatever you think about the Epstein files, do you think it's a little weird that all the people that are going after the Trump administration right now, if you just, put some decodes in their profile, you would think that they were truthers. You'd think that they were truth community people because they are attacking the administration with the same threadbare analysis that is what passes for content in most of the truth community now. The burden of proof for most decoders and people who follow decodes in the truth community right now, I would say is the same burden of proof, i.e. none, that liberals are using against the Donald Trump's DOJ right now.
Oh, yeah.
They're saying you're defending pedophiles, and then when asked to explain how exactly is Pam Bondi defending pedophiles, they're like, well, she just is because of the files. And then you're like, well, can you explain specifically how they are defending pedophiles? Who is the pedophile? If you ask that to most truthers, as you've been doing over the last week, they are going to respond in the exact same emotionally reactive way as these never Trump liberals.
Yeah.
And all of it is that the final point on this would be the real irony, and I've pointed this out for a long time in different topics. The irony is that I've been writing about the Epstein things for the last week or so in my own way. I think there's a there. I think it's representative of an extremely important pathway. It's the narrative in general. And it's something that played a massive role in bringing me into active engagement with the InfoWar. And I know a lot of our audience is the same way. The irony of being one of those people who went down all those dark paths and being called a doomer by people who did the same thing is pretty strange. And I think that's part of why it feels so weird out there right now.
Yeah. And I'm seeing most of the chat is like agreeing and getting the concept. There's a couple of people that are like, you're saying this to people who aren't attacking you, which you're spot on. There's a couple of people saying like,
guys, by the way,
also like, hey, this is just drama or whatever. And I don't see it as that because I feel like most of the people can acknowledge that we're in an information war. We've talked about it for so long. And there's so much evidence too from Trump before he left office, like setting things up for a type of psy war. And we talk about psyops all the time. And this is part of navigating the info war, is recognizing info war behaviors from people either pretending or actually participating in the info war. Because you need to be able to navigate that stuff to figure out a way forward. And that's why like I spent so much time on my show today talking about this, because I do see it as an issue. And it's been building, the cheerleading thing especially. Like what you said, the Pam Bondi thing today. I watched maybe 20 minutes of it, and it was a absolute shit show.
Yeah.
But let me show you like just one clip of it that I posted. And this is our tax dollars hard at work. I think it's this one. Yeah. Take a listen to this.
Mr. Chairman,
why
I have asked.
Didn't she ask Merrick Garland this?
I am reclaiming my time, and when I will reclaim my time,
Mr.
Chairman, the gentlelady is reclaiming her time.
I'm not going to get in the gutter for her theatrics.
Time belongs to the gentlelady. The gentlelady has 17 seconds.
Thank you. You're not going to answer this question.
That's a decode.
Chairman, I'll direct it to
What
you.
a massive
No, I'm answering a question.
Chairman, will you restore her time? The witness is interrupted.
I'm not going to get in the gutter with this woman. She's doing theatrics.
Let me have my
Gentlelady, the gentlelady from Washington controls the time. The gentlelady has 17 seconds. You can proceed with your final 17 seconds.
Mr. Chair.
So one thing to me, like what I'm recognizing again, just on out of the social media thing is, like you said, there's camps of people attacking the Pam Bondi and the Trump administration. And then there's also a group of people in the cheerleading camp that is like, oh my gosh, look at how Pam Bondi smacks down these Democrats. Like I look at this and I'm like, I'm embarrassed for everybody involved.
Yeah.
This is a clown show. Pam Bondi did not come out of this looking good. It's okay to say that because it's true. And yet you say something like that and it's like, how, oh my gosh, how dare you? Pam Bondi is trying to do what Trump does and how he interacts with these people. And you cannot, not everybody can do that.
No.
Like you have to have the right personality. You have to have the right expressions. You have to have the right tone and everything. She just sounds, yeah, that you have to be smarter than the people you're talking to. And I'm not saying Pam Bondi's dumb because she does, you know, she's probably smart. She's a lawyer. She's AG for God's sake. But Trump is like the master at engaging with his enemies like this. And not everybody can do it. And she tried and she failed. It did not come out good. Like this has not been good. A good run for her. I don't know if it's intentional. I don't have trust or faith in Pam Bondi. I've not seen anything to like give me that trust or faith other than Trump being like, hey, here she is. But how many times has he done that with people that have now been proven to be bad actors or other people that we talk about in the community or I get shit for, like Pence or Barr, right? So we got to be able to take the same approach with everybody. At least try to. The objective approach. And this was a clown show. Sorry, you can go ahead. I see her.
Yeah. No, I one of the random name that popped into my head when you were talking about how she handled that. It's kind of funny because JD Vance popped into my head, and I'm not like a avowed JD Vance guy. I have my concerns. You know, Chris Paul talks about this quite a bit on his own. Some of the connections behind JD. There's an open question among pockets of MAGA world of, hey, is JD Vance really the earnest heir apparent MAGA representative that should follow in Trump, or is he there on behalf of Peter Thiel and some of these guys that, you know, are willing to work with the MAGA agenda, but ultimately don't necessarily have the same end goals? That out of the way, the reason I bring him up demonstrates the opposite side of that coin. You can think that a person in a position is trying to do a good job and is ideologically aligned with you, while saying that performance was awful, just as you can be like, I don't necessarily trust this person, but they're really great in these situations. JD Vance is fantastic in those situations. It's actually, he's so good in those situations, it gets to the point where that's why some people don't trust him, because everything seems so rehearsed, right? But part of that is JD is extremely poised anytime that happens to him.
He's a smart guy too.
He's a really smart guy. He's really quick. He clearly rehearses and knows what to expect when he goes into things like that.
He's charming.
And, you know, like there's a little bit of this too, and I'm not saying it's across the board, but I got to make my one sexist comment a show. Like, he's a dude. And he acts like a guy when people get emotional with him. And he's just like, yeah, I mean, I'm just going to rattle off a bunch of facts and change the course of the conversation and put you on the back foot. And I think, like, whether you want to defend Bondi to the death or not, she came off like a highly emotional, screeching woman in that hearing today. That is what she came off as. She absolutely did.
Did you watch any of it, or you just saw the clips?
Yeah, I saw the clips circulating like that one. I watched probably like 8-9 minutes of clips. And now, I'm not saying any of the people questioning her did not come off like that either, right? This isn't any sort of defense of that. But it's why you can have a bicameral conversation here that we're not allowed to have anymore and say, hey, I do not think the people holding Pam Bondi's feet to the fire are earnest allies of the American people. I have a lot of doubts about Massey and his real intentions. There's a lot of grandstanding going on here, right? They're using Pam Bondi. She's right that they are using Pam Bondi as this grandstanding kind of political theater thing. She's absolutely correct. But to your point, Bondi's very poor reactions to that accomplished the goal. And I've said this for a few weeks now. On my normie Twitter feed in my other job, it is lefty, retard, plugged into the system type of people. A lot of journalists are on that feed, etc. And you know what I saw all day today? Bondi clip, Bondi clip, Bondi clip, Bondi clip, right? And of course, never Trumpers are going to look for anything they can to smear the Trump administration. That's nothing new. But I usually don't see much of anything on that feed. The only time they all start posting stuff is when something optically they think went really well for them. And I don't think it's the end of the world. I really don't think a lot of this stuff matters. But I think the point here is when you are in the hopium crowd and you blindly defend absolutely every single aspect of what anybody associated with Trump is doing, if you just imagine a Democrat in Bondi's position, Merrick Garland, you put him in that position and you put Rand Paul there grilling him about the Epstein files in the exact same manner. If Merrick Garland word for word said the exact same things, the entire MAGA world would be circulating all the same clips that the whole leftoid sphere is circulating right now.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, it exposes the hypocrisy. Gosh, there was a point I was going to make about the Epstein files. Oh, I also engaged with a liberal, like I think it was a real person on Twitter it was yesterday, about the Epstein files. Like, okay, I'm going to bite, like I'll see what you have to say about the files, because they were talking shit about Trump and like he's listed 38,000 times. And I went through the whole thing with him. He's like, showed me a screenshot, because I asked him like, show me any proof and I'll be concerned, then I'll bite. I'll be open-minded about it. And he showed me one and it was totally disingenuous. It had nothing. It was from a civil lawsuit. Anybody can say anything in a civil lawsuit, doesn't make it true. And I told him that. He's like, well, that's not true. It's in the Epstein files. It's like, okay, well, what about Unicorn? This is where I got the Unicorn post idea from. Yeah. It's like, Unicorn is also in the files. Are you demanding we depose unicorns now? Like, are they sexual traffickers too? Because that's what you're saying. And they just double down on retardation. Oh, I can't talk to you. I can't do all these things. It's really hard to again see a path where we actually fix the numerous amount of actual concerns in this country. Because guys, there are some. Sitting back on our hands, in my opinion, is not the answer. I would love for that to be the case. I would love to literally just be watching a movie and not have to worry or do anything. But I feel like deep down, most people understand that there are real effects happening. Not everything is rainbows and butterflies. And we may have to have a role in fixing things. That's how I believe it. But when you see the info war in such a muddied spot like it is right now, and again, this is the whole reason why we're talking about this, is because to win a narrative warfare, you have to have control and understanding of the narratives and the psyops and be able to navigate them all and get to some sort of objective on the other side of it, which is what we're trying to figure out. And I see us trying to navigate this stuff, and we're trying to navigate through and around, and sometimes have to backtrack around people who claim to be participating in the info war with us on our side. And that's what's so difficult. Anyway, I don't know.
Well, another thing on the Bondi hearing, and this is something I was reading about, and shout out to Jordan Sather, was posting about this a couple of days ago. I think this was in the wake of the Super Bowl. I don't know if this ad ever ended up airing. I didn't see an update on that, but there were reports before the Super Bowl that an ad was going to be airing, demanding justice for Epstein victims, for the victims of Epstein. Jordan had done a little dig on that, an easy little dig, and found that there were 2 NGOs that were backing that commercial funding for those victims. Now, he had been talking about this like a month ago. I think it was in December that the files kind of had a little flare up, and then they went back down for about a month and a half. And at the time, Jordan had pointed out there was a press conference where it was like victims for Epstein, right? The women who had been allegedly victimized by Epstein who held this press conference. Fine, right? You think that's going to get circulated everywhere. This is great. This is waking the normies up. Except it was the Open Societies Foundation and a couple other foundations that were paying for all those women to go to that event, right? And one of the things Jordan and I had talked about was, well, it could be, this is what the truth community has a really hard time with this. Human beings have a really hard time with this. Both of those things can be true. It can be true that these are victims of Jeffrey Epstein. And it can be true that they are being coerced and misled and weaponized against Donald Trump and the MAGA movement. And either way, the reason I bring that up is those same NGOs were behind a lot of those women that were at that press conference and then were in that commercial that was funded this past weekend, were the same ones in the hearing room that, there was that theatrical moment where they were trying to tell Bondi, look at the victims, and, trying to make this whole social media moment out of it.
Yeah.
Those are the same women, many of them, that are being funded by these NGOs, right? Now, are they real Epstein victims? Maybe. Allegedly, sure. Let's just say they are. The people behind them are all of the people that this audience and the InfoWar in particular, the truth community, would have pointed out as the very NGOs, the protest industrial complex, that Donald Trump was signal boosting throughout 2025 in particular, going after Soros, Open Societies Foundation. And this is all before the Minnesota shit kicked off to really drive that point home. How quickly the truth community forgets. We've been talking about NGOs, we, the truth community, have been talking about NGOs for the last 6 months, especially the last couple months because of Minnesota. But then NGOs are funding the Truth for Epstein movement against Donald Trump, Howard Lutnick, Elon Musk, Pam Bondi. Now, hey, I don't know everything about Howard Lutnick. I don't know. You just mentioned with Pam Bondi. Trump has kept people close to him in the past that we end up changing our opinion about in the future. And we're like, oh, that might have been an enemies closer type of situation. That could be going on with some of these people. But on the surface level, one of the reasons I wrote the honeypot hoax this past weekend was to engage in that bicameral and say, you need to at least be able to pause yourself in the truth community and say, hold up. If George Soros really wants to hear from these victims at a hearing making Pam Bondi and the Trump DOJ look awful, what exactly am I looking at here? And instead, the reaction is emotional. The reaction is you're trying to defend the pedophiles. And again, when you see yourself just repeating the things that all the anti-Trump people are saying right now, you probably fell into an op.
Yeah, we're definitely an op. I have a clip for you guys. And before I play it, I just want to remind people and explain. This clip is going to show why I've repeatedly stated that I think it's so important people recognize that Trump never actually campaigned on releasing the Epstein files. That was never part of his campaign. He never brought it up unprompted. It was only ever brought up by other people, and he would respond to it. And if you don't believe me, go look at any of his campaign speeches, any of his interviews he's done, look for the full context. Anytime it's ever brought up, it's in response to a question, okay? And the reason I say that is because that is how they're weaponizing it right now. The left is weaponizing it as this was Trump's central promise, and it backfired on him, and now you guys are hiding stuff for him. And that's how it's being weaponized. And people are like, oh, yeah, that was a central promise. And it was people in the truth community who made it feel that way when it was never the case. But they're the ones who helped get it to the narrative, like the part of the narrative warfare we're witnessing unfold right now. Take a listen.
Massive cover-up this has been and continues to be. Donald Trump made the release of the Epstein files the center of his political campaign because he thought it would benefit him. Then you got into office, Attorney General, claimed to have a client list, only to then say that there was no list. Your deputy, Todd Blanche, met alone with Elaine.
Steph Asia says no, but he did campaign on putting sex traffickers away and protecting children, which is what he's been doing. We've talked about that so many times.
Yeah.
How many people have been put away by the Trump administration who are sex traffickers? But this is the weaponization here. This was never a concern for anybody outside of like a subset of the truth community. The Epstein, it was a concern throughout his first administration. Nobody from government at all was calling for the release of the Epstein files while Biden was in office. Thomas Massie, the principal conservative, I saw him and Pam Bondi scissor it out today on Congress too. That was so stupid. But keep in mind, Thomas Massie, full of shit. He had 3 times. If you go back to January 20th of 2017, when Trump first got inaugurated, and then January 20th of 2025, when Trump got inaugurated the second time, he has a total of 3 tweets total having to do with Jeffrey Epstein. And one of them is just his name gets brought up in an article, and so he mentions it in his post. Second one is saying he doesn't think blackmail is that bad, or Epstein wasn't blackmailing people in Congress. The third one is in response to Emerald Robinson or whatever, of all people, She's like, you should be demanding the Epstein files. He goes, I demand the Epstein files, like making fun of it, making light of it. He's never actually cared about any of this stuff until it became a weapon he could use narratively against Donald Trump. That's what all these people are doing. None of these people are being genuine at all. And it's being weaponized against Trump. And that is why I think he's calling it a hoax and trying to dismiss it, because he recognizes what's going on. And he's trying to like tell you guys, like, this is a hoax. Now, there may be more to the Epstein files than what we've gotten so far. That may be true. What we've gotten so far, though, has not been what everybody said it was going to be. Okay, and that's what I've been saying as a possibility since at least June when Kash Patel went on Joe Rogan. And yeah. I got a bunch of shit for saying that then. It's like, what if it's not what we thought? What if it was built up in a way by people so they could later weaponize it? And I think we're seeing the weaponization of it right now. This is probably the like most distracted I think everybody has been in the info war, maybe ever. Like we have election stuff going on, all this like really good stuff. There are still awful bad things too, but there are some really like interesting, awesome things finally here. And instead of like focusing on that stuff and using that to like wake up the normies or whatever, we're sitting here talking about a lot of clickbait Epstein stuff. There are some weird stuff in there. I'm not denying that. There are some things, but most of it is a distraction. And even us here, we're sitting here talking about it. But again, InfoWar, we have to talk about this stuff in InfoWar because this is some of the stuff that is like of most concern right now.
Absolutely. And I think that's kind of why at the start of the show, I said it's a weird paradox where I feel positive, like on a micro, I feel positive that a lot of the theaters I pay attention to, I'm like, this is some good shit. This is some stuff I was writing about in 2024 and 2023 and saying, on the energy front in particular. But you mentioned the trafficking angle. One of the real kind of ending section of the article I wrote this past weekend was all about the actual. I specialize in the narrative. That's what I like writing about the most. But I spent a lot of time talking about the narrative and how it's being weaponized, to your point. But then I went into the actual and said, like, again, this is taking them at their word and just being like, well, I'm not going to operate on the assumption that literally everything Donald Trump says is a bold-faced lie or that his administration puts out as a bold-faced lie, because let's operate on that battle space. And, 60,000 children, 130,000 located, all these numbers that the DHS and DOJ are throwing out there out of the Trump administration. And we've said this for months. If Trump is being earnest about saying this is a hoax, why is he so pissed off about it? If you engage with it and allow yourself to think he's not kayfabing in that infamous clip you've played a bunch at the lunch, a few months ago, where he was mad, where he seemed mad that the Epstein name was brought up, you think, well, why would he be mad if I don't do the full control, blah, blah, blah type of thing? Well, because he is doing the most to stop child trafficking. The irony with that is that I don't think it's a case, when you say hoax, it's such a triggering word. When Trump says hoax, it's a triggering word. Because, and I said this to you in our Badlands chat today, what is happening is when truthers hear the word hoax, they have heard that with so many things that we have been right about for decades that it triggers an immune response in a truther, right? If you call something a hoax, we're used to playing the opposite game and saying, well, usually that's the thing that ends up being true. The irony here is that Trump is not saying there are not highly powerful, extremely lucrative networks, vast networks, trafficking children that are also involved with satanic belief systems. The crazy thing is, as I said a couple weeks ago, they are putting this stuff out in press releases on arrest numbers out of the DOJ and DHS for the whole year. Mm-hmm. Trump is not calling that a hoax. He is calling the Epstein narrative a hoax. And I think, and I don't know what the truth is, but when I went through the thought experiment, really the what I was writing was a thought experiment for me, because I've been so deep in this stuff too. So like, okay, what could he mean by this? Could it be that Epstein is an absolute creeper and is connected to very powerful people who are involved in depraved crimes against children? There are some of those emails that they're talking about torture videos, etc. And to your point, none of these things are hard line proof in any of these emails. But there are certainly some concerning things with some of these figures. I can absolutely believe that Trump knows there is a there. This guy ran in circles with these creep elites who were doing all this crazy, debauched, satanic shit, but that he knows the pathway to justice is not through the Epstein narrative, and that is why it's being weaponized. So my kind of operating theory right now, which who knows, is essentially that the media and the deep state is using the Epstein narrative and weaponizing it, not because it's not indicative of real crimes, but because they're using it as this net and saying, that's where all the creepy satanic shit was. It's right in this little net. And Trump knows that it's not there. Like, that's not where it actually is. It's actually in this 764 network we're dismantling. It's in the cartels through the southern border that we're dismantling. It's in these various NGOs we've been shutting down since I came back into office. It's not in this email chain with this one guy. Yeah. So, you know, they weren't talking about it years ago, and I think I used to fall into the camp of like, oh, Trump baited all this out. I see that's most of the response in the truth community. You have to be able to operate from the perspective of just taking Trump at his word sometimes and saying, what would that mean? What could it mean if he's calling it a hoax while not calling it fake? Because I think those are two different words for a reason.
Yeah, I have the clip that you're talking about, but I don't agree necessarily that Trump baited this out, because again,
that's what I'm saying. I don't either anymore.
He was never the one who pushed the narrative. It hasn't been him. But let me play this clip quick, and then I do want to get to our next two sponsors. We can get on to some of our other topics. But do appreciate you guys leaving rants. We'll get to those here at the end. Love you
thanks,
guys.
Texas Jules. Just gifted some subs. Appreciate that.
Jules, what's up? I've been meaning to they do these Zoom calls every Thursday, and I get so busy, but I want to sit on one of those. So keep sending those invites, Jules. Love you. But yeah, let's get a quick word from the next two sponsors of the show here. We got Lean. You guys love some Lean. I just got to get this pulled up in Rumble Studio here. All right. Everybody's talking about weight loss injections because the results are so dramatic. They work by lowering blood sugar and reducing your appetite. So what if you're looking to lose weight, but you're not interested in those painful weekly injections, especially when you hear about some of those intense side effects? That's why doctors created a weight loss supplement called Lean, and the results have been remarkable. The studied ingredients in Lean have been shown to lower your blood sugar, burn fat by converting it into energy, and curb your appetite and cravings, so you're not as hungry. But listen, Lean is not for the casual dieter with only a few pounds to lose. The doctors at Brickhouse Nutrition created Lean for the frustrated dieters with 10 or more pounds to lose. We can get you started with 20% off and free rush shipping, so you can add Lean to your healthy diet and exercise plan. Visit takelean.com and enter code DPH for your discount. That's promo code DPH at takelean.com. And I can vouch for this not being for like everybody. Like when they first became a sponsor, they sent me, a couple of samples, and I took it one day and I was like, I don't know if I can take this because I don't have that much weight to lose. And I was like almost like jittery and like,
yeah,
but it's good. I think I gave one to Ash. I think one to my mom. They both liked it. She asked for it. Or maybe I gave one to Isa Tyre. I don't remember. I had 3 of them and I gave them away because I just couldn't use it. But it's a great product, great people. They're supporting us. So be sure to support our sponsors, guys. TakeLean.com, promo code DPH. We also got ourselves at Soft Disclosure with another softdisclosure.com. Oh, am I supposed to read something here? Wow, what a blunder.
Just go to softdisclosure.com. The beard brush.
Oh, hold on, let me start over. Let me start over because I do have a script. I didn't realize it. It's a very short video for the script here, but fellas, quick question. Is your beard intentional or is it just happening to your face? If it's dry, crunchy, or doing whatever it wants, that's not rugged. That's neglect. Soft Disclosure Beard Oil fixes that shit. Few drops softens the hair, conditions the skin underneath, and takes your beard from chaotic to dialed in. No grease, no overpowering fake scent, just clean ingredients that actually work. And I can vouch for the no grease because I rub that shit all over my face every morning. And look I'm glowing. I'm basically glowing. It's amazing. And now we've added the upgrade. our new boar bristle beard brush, engraved with the Soft Disclosure logo and proudly made in the USA. Real bristles, real control. It distributes the oil evenly, trains the beard, and makes it look like you meant to grow it that way. And here's the move. When you grab a beard oil, you can add the brush for 25% off. Buy the brush by itself, full price. So do it right. Soft Disclosure beard oil and the new boar bristle brush. Visit softdisclosure.com and level up your beard game. The ladies will love it. You'll thank us later.
If you buy 1
Nailed
gallon of beard oil and 6 brushes, we do throw in an actual wild boar.
I don't think that's accurate.
Pet wild boar.
I don't think that's accurate. But I haven't.
I was just assuming.
I've had this thing now in my hands. I got it. Checked the mailbox right before I put my kids to bed. And so I really just started like using it when the show started. That was my first actual comb. And I got to tell you, this is ergonomical. It fits in my hand nice.
Ergonomic.
It's got little grippy things on the side of it right there. So like my fingers fit. Like
nice.
I don't anticipate ever dropping this, even with oily hands from the beard oil.
Yeah.
And the bristles, you'd think like a boar. If I had to guess what a boar felt like, because I haven't pet one, I wouldn't feel like it would be soft or anything, but it's like a firm, soft brush. You know what I mean? Like it's firm. Yeah. It's like, oh, those are pretty sturdy. And then you rub it on your face, like, oh, that's soft as hell, man.
Right.
This works.
And those kind of brushes are great for dialogue scenes. If you're looking to make it seem like something is happening in a scene you're writing, you just have the character brushing a horse or some sort of animal with one of those, and you'll be like, obviously the guy is doing something. So this is not actually just a dialogue scene, it's an action scene.
Yeah. Also, if you happen to be a podcaster or something and have a co-host who can get a little wordy sometimes, and you're bored, not listening, waiting for him to finish what he's talking about, it's a great way to like kill a few
Sometimes
minutes.
I get bored too during my own rants.
Yeah.
But I always bring it back.
Well, when you get to that point, why don't you just stop, man?
That's the weave. You know, you never know where the weave's gonna go. Least of all, the person who starts the weave should know this by now.
Was I saying bristles wrong or something?
I don't know. What'd you say, Brussels?
I think I said bristles.
You said bristles?
Did I say Brussels? I don't think so. Boar Brussels. I may have. But hey, guys, I'm not here to say words good. I'm here to sell you this damn brush.
That's what we're here for.
Boar Brussels.
That's what it's been leading up to. Did you have any good topics last night? No, we did sell some brushes, some boars brushes.
we probably didn't, but hey, I'm happy. I'm pleased. Like this, it just feels so good. Kids are gonna love this thing too. Anyway, I'll try to stop like doing stuff to my face for the rest of the show, but I can't promise because this brushel is amazing. Anyway, yes, ergonomical is a real word. How about we go through a couple rants real quick, and then we'll get into. I want to talk elections, the SAVE Act, a couple other things. Keith O'Higgins. Thank you for the generosity and support, guys. We appreciate you. Keith O'Higgins, pedophile protectors are actively working against Big Millstone.
Yep. It's true. We
Very
need a
true.
sponsor.
Jester 3334 says, BB, what came of that intense low-speed accident you had with the ambulance?
Well, it was very annoying for about 2 months being without a car, but car got fixed, although the repair was shoddy, and I had to bring it back a week later because the repair wasn't good. But it's all good now, and the fire department took full responsibility. It did not try to fuck around with me. So, yeah, it was good.
Guys, we do have more topics. We're just like mixing things up a little bit, spicing things up, and going through a couple rants now. Or should we just go to the topics? What do you guys want? I don't know. Is this a bad idea? I had one person.
Just do the topics, I guess.
Okay, I had one person in the chat say something, and I got so
if it gets in your head, that's all. Yeah. That's all it takes, as you guys can see. Sometimes it is though, just like one comes through. There'll be 50 that come through. You're like, fucking faggots, and then there's like one that you're like, what?
Not that really? Guy. That guy said that. No. Has you doubting everything. So okay, whatever.
I will say for the trolls though, and there's a difference between people who are earnestly criticizing, even though we'll call you a faggot too, and trolls like piling in at the very beginning of shows. It's not subtle. You reveal yourselves. I know you guys are on assignment, but when you're in here for 20 minutes and then you're just gone the whole night, Always happens in very specific weeks. It's just not subtle.
It could be just that our content's only good for 20 minutes. I could see that.
Possible.
I could see that.
It could be fresh and fit flybys. They heard I've been calling them gassed up mids. So they throw some of their bots in
Such
chat.
a weird like you put it in the show after hours with girls. That's what we need to start doing is like Badlands Power Hour with girls just to see what happens. Like we don't have to actually have the girls here because they clearly don't. But you know,
you can scrounge a few up.
See if Rumble will feature us a little longer.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay, let's talk about this story because I think this is fantastic. Asher CanCon would have a better understanding and perspective of this because they've engaged with this gentleman, Kurt Olson, much more than I have. They've had him on Badlands multiple times.
They have engaged with many shills.
No, he's not a shill, at least as far as I know. This is good stuff. President Trump directs intelligence agencies to share 2020 election intelligence with former campaign lawyer. President Trump has directed the CIA and other U.S. intelligence agencies to provide election-related intelligence to Kurt Olson, former campaign lawyer who previously took part in the Stop the Steal effort challenging the 2020 election, according to a U.S. intelligence official and a source familiar with the matter. They hired Olson last year to investigate the 2020 election. Essentially, this guy knows the election shenanigans pretty handily. Like he's got a pretty good grasp on all of it.
He knows elections are fake.
Yes, he does. And now he is, and it's almost weird to me that he didn't already have the intelligence community sharing intelligence related to the 2020 election with him. Like Trump hired him way back in the beginning of his administration. I don't know when exactly, but it was a while ago that we knew that he was associated with the Trump administration. We knew he was hired to look into the election fraud stuff. And just now we're getting the story of him having access to this stuff. And it's almost like it's a compounding effect of all the recent election-related narratives. We had the Fulton County. We've had Tulsi Gabbard kind of in the background related to election stuff. Like we've been anticipating a lot of things. We're finally starting to get traction. Tulsi in Fulton County. We had the affidavit come out. CanCon obviously had his big story with the Brian Kemp and that whole thing. The media is absolutely freaking out, and a good reverse indicator is how much they are attacking Tulsi Gabbard because we've had nonstop stuff about that the last couple of weeks as well. But so now we have this story, and on top of this, one more thing, we just got word the other day, or just today. Sorry, gotta find the link. Here we go. Allegedly, from this Liz Landers, no idea who it is, White House correspondent for PBS News. A source just passed along information about a press conference that Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem is having this Friday, 2/13, in Phoenix, Arizona. Topic, election security. Local officials will be joining her at 10:30 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. So, I don't know. We kind of had hints, subtle hints. I'm not going to say inside sources because I don't believe those actually exist. But there's been whispers that, Arizona was going to be next. And so this is interesting. Wonder if Tulsi's going to be there. But anyway, go ahead.
I would also say, I had said at the start of the show that I've been reading a lot about energy type of stuff the last couple of days. But to put a button on the Epstein topic in relation to the elections, there is real movement, maybe not on an actual level we're not at the end stages, anywhere near the end stages of getting to the bottom of actions on 2020 election. But there's way more movement than there has been since we've been doing this. And, if you're looking for whatever you think about the Epstein topic, clearly, probably everyone watching the show would agree that there is an attempt at weaponizing that narrative going on. If you want to know why, in terms of timing, this is what I think of, right? Like you meant the reason I thought of that with relation to Epstein is because you just said, look at the reaction of the media about the election fraud type of stuff. That's a good reverse indicator. A seemingly disconnected reverse indicator is a news cycle change. And it was a forced news cycle change, right? Like we've seen this. If you're in the truth community and you've been studying how media works from a corporate level and the synergy in the media, there are news cycles. There's a reason they call it a news cycle. It's not just because they're talking about Monday through Friday. That's not what the news cycle means. It really is a narrative cycle. They all kind of coordinate on what they're going to be talking about. Sometimes that could be some really big organic thing is happening and they all coalesce around that big narrative. Often, as we know in this community, these things are artificial. So it indirectly makes me even more encouraged with some of these election fraud stories we're seeing. Because it's like, not only are they reacting negatively to these election fraud moves that Trump seems to be making publicly, they seem to not want to talk about them. It felt like last week it was, the best defense is a good offense. Attack, attack, attack. And somebody at headquarters and fake news headquarters was like, we should just flood the zone. Epstein, hearing, save the children, Super Bowl, blah, blah, blah. And meanwhile, Trump's like, hey, here's some more information. Here's a new guy in the intel world getting involved with this election. Here's a press conference in Arizona. So it's encouraging. It's at once annoying, even more so about flooding the zone. But I always say the reason I come out of these things usually seeming optimistic is because when the enemy's flooding the zone, they are doing it for a reason. They are doing it because they're worried about what is moving forward. And conversely, it seems like Trump and them are not worried about this. They're just doing their election fraud rollout seemingly on a predetermined timeline, and it doesn't seem to be being interrupted or halted in any way by what the media is doing.
Yeah. The election fraud narrative being exposed is one of the things that it's felt like if there was an order of operations of things that absolutely need to happen for us to get from point A to whatever point B is in fixing our country, however many things are on that list, at least one of them is that. Like, we have to address 2020. We have to get to a point where we acknowledge Joe Biden was never actually president. We have to have the discussion about how fraudulent our elections are. And there's a whole bunch of micro conversations that will be had because of these bigger things, right? So we've been kind of expecting, or at least hoping, that this moment in time would come. You would think, the enemy, we like to say they're stupid, and some of the public-facing individuals that they have are stupid. But on a whole, they've been very successful at getting us very hoodwinked, and they're not actually stupid. That's a cop-out on our end on not being willing to understand or accept the reality of what we're up against, and that there is an actual entity that we are fighting. So they would have known, my point here being, they would have known that at some point that's also on the checklist. That's what Trump's going to have to do. And they've known that there's been investigations and things potentially going on behind the scenes. They probably know that Trump implemented something like a devolution and walked away. They knew Joe Biden was never president. They know all these things, but the narrative aspect of it is very important. So one of the things that I think is very interesting when it comes to the timing of the Epstein stuff and what Trump is trying to do with election fraud exposure, they probably knew there's best if exposed by date, we need
maximum impact.
Yeah. Well, let me finish my thought here. We need to get, Trump needs to probably get this exposed here by no later than, I don't even know, just let's say June. Okay. And so the Epstein files, when Congress did their whole thing, they were originally supposed to be released by, I think it was after a month and a half after they voted on that bill or whatever. But yet the Justice Department, ironically, didn't find the things or didn't get them redacted. They didn't have enough people working through them, and it ended up delaying it weeks. And so it's kind of weird, almost a coincidence, you might say, that they got delayed to the point where these two things are coming out at the same time. And the Epstein files narrative is taking away from some of the election fraud narratives. The conversation Trump wants people to be having right now is our elections are fraudulent and illegitimate. Look at what's happening in Georgia. Look at what's happening maybe in Arizona, if that's what comes next. And if we go to our interactive map, all you would need then is a Michigan, and he has the total electoral college vote flipped from 2020. But instead, we're talking about the Epstein stuff. And my point of this whole part being is there are still people within Trump's administration that I think are working to stonewall him. I think Trump is likely very aware of that. He's allowing it to happen for whatever reason. I don't even want to get into that game theory. But the timing of this is not a coincidence, in my opinion. The Epstein files is drawing away people's attention because they've been so excited about it. It's been built up to such this thing that the actuals from some of the election fraud stuff are being minimized. Ultimately, I don't think it's going to matter because you're not going to be able to stop what is coming in that sense. Not the nothing can stop what is coming type thing. Like if Trump takes this to its ultimate narrative conclusion with the election fraud exposure, there ain't shit they can do about it. And there hasn't been shit they could do about it since 2020. But there is like a minimizing effect being done because of the Epstein files. Hopefully
yeah, I totally agree with that. And I think this, again, I'll spin this positive based on how you just ended it there. Another kind of Q refrain, but also just a game theory refrain is ammunition spent. A lot of people kind of use that terminology a lot in the context of info war and narrative warfare. There is finite ammunition. I know that sounds counterintuitive because you're talking about abstract warfare. Ultimately, an infinite number of narratives can be invented, right? Mm-hmm. If it's abstract, all that you need is abstract projection. You can just create and invent. But there are certain narratives. The reason I think that they're finite is they're designed to provoke a reaction. And stimulus responses are such that emotional responses, one of the things I said in my article is the more emotional the response to a narrative deployment, on the one hand, you'd say that's effective, right? No matter who is doing the deployment, you would consider it effective if you are provoking reactions out of the collective mind. That's the point of a narrative deployment. But on the other hand, I believe the more impactful and the more emotional a narrative is, the shorter the timeline it has to operate. Because it's like the cycle of abuse type of thing. When you overstimulate somebody, whether that's physical or mental, you condense the timeline, you condense the reactive timeline. If you slow roll things, you kind of massage that timeline, you allow for deeper understanding or deeper manipulation. Like something we'll get to in a little bit is look at the climate change narrative. It was not immediate. They're going to get you. The oceans, everything's boiling. You're going to die. The sun's going to blow up. It was decades and decades and decades. And when you run a narrative like that, you play that string out over a long enough time period, you really can emotionally manipulate people and change their belief systems. You can't do that when you are blitzing them with emotional propaganda. And that's why I think the positive way of looking at this, when you mention the timing, when would it be more effective to have the really big election fraud type of stuff in January or in October? Like, I would say the closer we are to elections, the more effective these narratives are. So I'm guessing that there's these narratives the enemy holds in reserve against Donald Trump that they also want to hit him with that timing, right? So the positive way of looking at all the Epstein shit, and I know nobody can believe this right now, I promise, maybe we can clip this and make me look stupid, in 2 weeks, we will not be talking about this in the truth community.
Epstein files?
Yeah, I'm not saying we'll never be talking about it again, but I do not think it will be the dominant topic in 2 weeks' time. Never mind in 10 months' time.
How much you want to bet on it?
1 boar's bristled brush.
Okay. I mean, I don't know how we possibly gauge this because I just don't think it's gone away. I think that
I don't think it's going away.
Drip this out and drag this out, and I also think it's almost like a little it's almost bipartisan. Like it's close to being bipartisan in terms of like a lot of whatever the uniparty itself from both sides are very like, what the hell is the Trump administration doing here? Like, we need some answers. I'm talking about Congress, like they're all douchebags, but I don't know. It could get weird. Like, I could see them trying to impeach people over the Epstein stuff. Like, they're going to try to build it up in that kind of, I don't know. We'll see. You could be right. Because, I mean, that's traditionally the news cycle and the attention span of people in the info war is that where we'll be talking about a story and then 2 days later, it's like, oh my gosh, that was 2 days ago. Feels like a month ago. I completely forgot about that. That is typically how it goes. This one just feels different because there's been so much hype around it. So I don't know.
That's fair. 2 weeks is bold, especially because I think in 2 weeks the Clintons are supposedly being they're going to do their little committee show.
I'll take a bet.
It's going to come back then.
Bet taken. I forgot about that.
I rescind the bet. But Either way, I think that my point on the audience perspective, the psychology of it, still stands. If they do want to string this out for the whole year, it has diminishing returns. You might be right that they will draw it out for the entire year leading up to midterms and all the rest of it. And we're seeing that rhetoric, right? And that rhetoric usually is coming from the right wing that is really worried about the midterms and the impact of the Epstein files on the midterms. So I have no doubt that they will try to do this. But what I do have doubts over is, are they going to be able to provoke consistent reactions by just making the same vague emotional appeals month after month after month with no sauce, right?
Yeah,
maybe.
Well, let's bring this back to the election topic, because that's where I think, I think Trump. There's a lot of things that they could try to do against Trump, but the one thing that I'm willing to say nothing can stop what it's coming about is this kind of exposure. I think it's central, it's key, and we have the new affidavit out from the Fulton County thing this week. Again, I'd go watch Why We Vote on Friday, because I know they're going to talk about it. But it's very much like a lot of the things we've been talking about. And there's one more story that they've been really, like, in conjunction with Trump starting to expose election fraud. We've had this SAVE Act or whatever, Save America Act, on the back burner, and kind of like one of the recurring narratives being pushed by Con Inc. and the Uniparty, the red team part of the Uniparty, as like, this is how we save the world, guys. We just need to pass the SAVE Act. They've been saying that repeatedly. Trump's been feeding that thing. They finally passed it today. Like, we're getting election fraud exposure, and now the House is like, okay, well, we better do this now. Like, they're already pre-applying the Band-Aid that they're expecting is going to fix an amputated arm. You know what I mean? Like, this is not the fix we thought it was. And this is my post that I got called a doomer for and told to just trust the plan harder on. The Save America Act would be a good start. And that was even me starting it off optimistically for you guys to try to, like, hey, don't call me a doomer. I'm trying to give you a little bit here, trying to fend that off. But let's not pretend it would legitimize our election system. We would still have rigged voting machines, mail-in fraud, ballot harvesting, ballot-on-demand printers, delays in counting, partisan election officials, lack of transparency, lack of proper audits, campaign fundraising fraud, rigged gerrymandering, flawed primary system, lack of accountability so far, and corrupt media. And that's just to name a few. That was just off the top of my head. Don't let these people gaslight you, because that is what they're trying to do. This is what Chris Paul has been sounding the alarm about for months, if not years. We cannot accept any solution that the system presents us, because the system itself is not going to actually provide an actual solution to the problem they benefit from. This is a pacification. It's a narrative solution. It doesn't actually fix the problem. And so we can't just be willing to accept it. Having legitimate, like, only American citizens voting in our elections, that is a good thing. That's a tally on our side of the ledger or whatever. But we need about 50 other ledgers, like, or other notches in the ledger. You know what I mean? Like, this is not enough. So just keep that in mind.
Yeah, easy way to maybe frame this would be, to borrow from Chris Paul, if you have only Americans voting in fake elections, then it's like, well, I suppose now illegal voters are not being defrauded of their votes, but everyone else still is. And, to the trust the plan commentary, we always make those comments. Again, the irony, going back to the beginning of the show and even our conversation Sunday night, is that we largely believe, and a lot of your writing and research and commentary over the years has been predicated on absolutely believing there is a plan that Donald Trump is executing. Not these motherfuckers.
No.
And John probably does trust the plan a little harder than a lot of the people saying to trust the plan. He just thinks it's not Congress that is executing the plan.
And I also think don't just sit back and watch it.
Yeah, exactly. That there's that part of it. But just on like a baseline level, Congress is illegitimate. And Chris says this all the time. You say this all the time as well. They are illegitimate. It doesn't mean all of them are like criminals or part of the deep state or actively working to subvert Trump, although I don't extend... They might be. I don't extend benefit of the doubt to a single one of them. But the bottom line is they are illegitimate. They are the system, to your point, that we are trying to replace or solve, legitimize. So if they're proposing the solution, it's not just that that's not the solution. It's that we trust that the plan that Donald Trump has is not to go through Congress to solve the election system that benefits him and not, that benefits them and not him. I'm going to trust that guy, the guy who was defrauded, rather than the people who have benefited from the fraud.
Yeah. And this goes back to a clip from one of our Power Hours, Saturday Powers, where Chris is like, nothing can stop what is coming except not any of the filibuster. Like that kind of, that line of thinking, just, it should not compute, but for some people it does. And it's funny to me. But that's like where we're at in the movement. And they're gonna do multiple other pacification attempts, I'm assuming. Like, they're going to try to pretend like they are part of the solution. They're going to continue to grift off of Trump and pretend that they're like helping him and participating in saving America, when in reality is they've never cared to actually do any of that stuff. This is the rug that I'm on, and I know I shouldn't be on any rug. I know we should not have rugs, but if there is 2 rugs I'm on, let me preface this. 2 rugs. It's one of them is the election fraud one, because I've been waiting for that for so long. And the other one is the potential big RICO one behind the scenes. And it's not out of the question that those 2 things are potentially connected. I did get this week. Oh, go ahead. I'll share my thoughts.
Well, on that note, I think like back when I was first on DPH in 2022, I know one of the things I was saying a lot at that time was from a narrative perspective, I've long believed that if there's this grand conspiracy that most of us believe is going on, that you would want, that involves many, many, many different layers of crime, right? Financial, political, election related, and perhaps the darker stuff that a lot of people kind of got woken up to or believe is going on, including me. I had said in 2022, I feel that the best Trojan horse, the best sort of narrative delivery mechanism for the takedown of a criminal globalist cabal would be through this vector, the election fraud, right? Because it stands to reason that whether you're talking about financial crimes, total debauchery, cartels, warmongering, all the rest of it, all the crimes that we've talked about for years in this community, the election system, as you've said for years, kind of underpins a lot of that, right? The financial system underpins it, but the election system kind of ends that air of legitimacy to it. So if you did have this grand RICO and you did have election fraud kind of at the heart of that, or connecting all of that together, all those other things that truthers have spent years digging into can be true. It just might not be the public mechanism through which justice is served.
Yeah. Speaking of financial stuff, the Congressional Budget Office today put out their budget for the next 10 years. I think they do it every year. And not to say they could just be like polls, right? We can't trust any of the information or numbers. It's probably not accounting for a lot of the things Trump is trying to implement, and there are some good things. But the numbers they put out, at least for what last year was and what this year was, $1.7 trillion deficit for last year. This year, it's on pace to be $1.8 trillion deficit. By 2036, the deficit, based on projections, I think it's stupid to even talk about stuff that far out, but just to show you what's in here, the narrative they're putting forth is we're going to have a $3-point-some trillion deficit, a total debt in this country of over $80 trillion. And we're sitting here again, the cheerleading side of it, I just don't understand how anybody could possibly look at any of these things and be like, yeah, I'll trust that and make sure that this will be okay. Things are going to be good. We're fine. We love taxes. We'll pay taxes. Meanwhile, Trump is telling us we have, if we just fix half the fraud in this country, we could run a balanced budget, meaning we could, half the fraud is $1.7 trillion. Today in Congress, Josh Hawley had somebody, I have no idea who this guy was, but he was talking to somebody about the fraud. And again, it's over $1 trillion. Listen to a little bit of this.
Where's this money going? I mean, we know where some of it's going in Minnesota. It went overseas. It went to Somalia. It went to NGO fronts. We know where it's gone in some other states. California gave away billions of dollars to a pro-Hamas NGO. But $1 trillion nationally, where's this money going to?
I appreciate that question because most people don't ask that question. It goes to terrorism. It goes to child trafficking. It goes to drugs. It goes to terrorism. And then it's used to purchase luxury items, cars, purses, homes. That's all funded by people like me that pay taxes.
So you're telling me that the electrician who goes to work every day and clocks in and works his butt off and tries to earn just enough to be able to, make his rent, maybe have a kid or two, put food on the table, his tax money is being used to buy other people luxury items, cars, yachts, whatever else, and is going to fund terrorism and child trafficking?
Yes, sir.
$1 trillion a year on this stuff?
$115 million an hour.
$115 million an hour. How do they get their hands on it?
Is that a lot? I don't know, because I make more than that an hour, so I'm not sure. Yeah. I'm not sure if that's a lot or not to most people, but I mean, it seems like it's a big number.
Yeah.
But that's ridiculous. And then while that's happening, like one of the main economic weapons Trump is using to we think try to fix things is tariffs. And this is something we've been talking about for a while is, I remember Deadwood Gart when General Quast was up there talking about how Trump was going to essentially wage warfare economically by wielding tariffs against his enemies. And he's been doing that all over the place. And tonight we had one of our first votes from the fake and gay illegitimate Congress where they're attempting to start preventing Trump from using those economic weapons. The House voted on Wednesday to overturn President Trump's tariffs on Canada after 6 Republicans sided with nearly all Democrats to rebuke one pillar of the president's trade agenda. The Democratic measure to roll back the levies passed in a 219 to 211 vote. It means there are people who crossed the aisle on this. Even a guy I interviewed before, this Kevin Kiley guy out of California. So I'm going to try to get him back on the show and be like, why are you being such a faggot, Kevin?
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, you go ahead.
I was just going to say on this point, I know they're not necessarily all saying this out loud, but we use the term narrative shielding a lot. And again, think of the info battle space, the narrative battle space right now, and how embattled the Trump administration is. I used the word earlier, bipartisan. Just whatever you think of it, there is absolutely a bipartisan uniparty push against the Trump administration on behalf of the Epstein narrative, okay? So when you then see headlines like this, 6 Republicans went across the aisle and joined Democrats to stop a Trump agenda, I would wager that a couple months ago, they wouldn't have felt emboldened, those Republicans, to make a move like this politically. And this is where when you undermine what Trump is doing with a weaponized narrative like this, it starts to grant narrative shielding to a lot of these GOP faggots to do the things that we think they've wanted to do the whole time. And the only reason they haven't been voting against Trump's measures is because Trump is the kingmaker. Yeah. Now, I don't think this is going to go well for them. I think Trump is the king, narratively, and he's going to be that way. And, we're going to get through all this Epstein weaponization bullshit. But in the interim, why do they feel like the battle space, it's okay right now as a Republican to cross the aisle and vote against Donald Trump's economic agendas? None of these fucks would have dared to do that in 2025. So why are they doing it right now? And again, earlier in the show, it's like, I'm not saying truth community people are intentionally putting energy behind the subversion of Donald Trump's mandate, a word we used a lot in 2025 and 2024, but you are accidentally being weaponized against his mandate. And these little moves that these creatures are making are evidence of that, I would say. And the positive thing, though, is that maybe on a long enough timeline, it starts to get people kind of onto the same page as us of saying, like, these people say nice things about Trump and MAGA on Twitter until they get the first excuse to completely go against him in the public eye.
Yeah, and that's one of the things about the Uniparty is that it's the wolves in sheep's clothing, right? That's how we describe the Republicans. The Republicans and Democrats, they don't actually exist. They're all the same. They pretend to be that way. They pretend to be divided so they can keep us actually divided. But if they get desperate enough, they would probably be willing to stop pretending to be opposed to each other in order to subvert Trump if he gets too close to actually fixing things. Now,
you mean unity, John?
No, I mean uniparty.
A unity push?
No, I'm saying like we could see they're breaking ranks on tariff stuff, right? They're trying to damage Trump's economy or whatever heading into the fake midterms. They're trying to do as much damage as they can so that they can build some sort of, mandate of their own for them to justify them maybe impeaching him or something. You know what I mean? Like, and it comes down to it. Would they be willing to cross the aisle and impeach Trump, even if it means they have to like blow off the fake cover of being a Republican? Of course they're going to be willing to do that if they get the opportunity. They just need the opportunity. And if they can build everybody's emotional, like everybody's just emotionally charged right now over the Epstein stuff, where they get enough people they think at least acceptable of like, oh yeah, I suppose. I mean, people were probably just annoyed of how he handled the Epstein stuff, so let's impeach him for whatever, you name it. They've already like preceded 20 narratives that they're going to probably try to pursue if they are able to steal in midterms. That puts it in a pretty interesting position. Now, I don't think it matters because I think Trump recognizes these people as actually illegitimate, and so he'll probably have a way to address this at some point. But it's not like insignificant that they're starting to do these things. They are. Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was going to say, we can help, though. This is what we talk about. We, as a community, this is where, like, do we have control over the government? No. That's why this whole community exists in the first place. But in narrative warfare, we can help. That's what the truth community, I think, can be used for, is to call this kind of shit out without being called doomers, right? This is the irony, again, of going back against the crowd that says nothing can stop what's coming, trust the plan. And they use that as a cudgel to stop people like us from calling out these fuckers that are actively subverting what the plan is. The plan is to call people like this out. And it probably grants, we're talking about narrative shielding, it goes both ways. Donald Trump also needs it in order to deal with traitors like this on a public narrative level. He needs to know, in my opinion, that the people are with him. It's like, we are with you. We are not with the GOP. Which is why I've been very consistent about this at Badlands. I have never been a fan of let's rebuild the Republican Party. Get the fuck out of here with that. I understand why Donald Trump ran as a Republican. I understand the system that we're in and everything. But again, just like fake elections cannot be used to legitimize the election process, and a fake Congress cannot legitimize a fake government, a two-party system that is the problem cannot legitimize the government. So, rejuvenating the Republican Party has never been my goal. That's never why I got into this. When I say I'm a former liberal, that doesn't mean I'm a current Republican. That's never what that's meant. It's meant I'm just a person. I'm an American. And, the good thing about all this stuff is these people, I think, are being put in positions where they're being forced through game theory to show the American people who they are. That's the trust the plan part of it. When you're referencing Donald Trump, he knows who these people are. He's just allowing them to expose themselves. I agree with that aspect of trust the plan. But the second part of that is that we need to call it out, or else Donald Trump doesn't get to do anything about it. Mm-hmm. If everybody's focused on saving the Republican Party, then they're not going to call any of this crap out if they're afraid of disrupting unity. And the reason I mentioned unity is actually furthers your point. I'm saying they would love the narrative or the sort of battle space, the terrain, to be such that they do not lose their Republican card by joining Democrats in a unity push. They could say, we're coming together for the betterment of the country if they believe the narrative against Donald Trump is toxic enough. And I think that's where we come in, is saying, no, fuck you. You've been rhinos the whole time. You've been uniparty the whole time. This is what we've been saying you're going to do for years, and now you're finally doing it. And we need Trump to start calling it out too. He has no problem doing it. I mean, he calls out these uniparty faggots. So hopefully he gets more aggressive about doing that, in the months ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if Trump does to a degree, but then he also leans into it too. I mean, think of how many times I've seen pictures of him golfing with Lindsey fucking Graham. That guy's uniparty as it comes. He's a war hawk. Ghost I'll let Ghost give the descriptions of him in the chat. So here's your opportunity, Ghost, of why Lindsey Graham sucks.
Yeah.
But what you're saying here about, Trump is exposing it. And if he's doing that, there's got to be a reason behind it. And we believe that reason is so that we hey, maybe we need to call it out. And that's the whole reason it's being exposed. Point it out to people instead of just sitting here cheerleading and be like, everything's just a plan. It reminds me of a parenting type tactic. Now, I've never actually done this scenario here. Okay. So don't call CPS or anything, but just imagine you're sitting there, you're making tacos with your kid. Okay. And the kid is mixing up the taco meat and their hand is getting a little closer to the burner and and you're like, be careful. You're going to burn yourself. You're going to burn yourself. You're going to burn yourself. And you keep repeating it. But you're there. And you're like, you know what? I'm not going to say it this last time. They end up burning their finger a little bit. And guess what? They never, ever put their hand close to the burner again. Because now they understand it hurts. It hurts.
Yeah.
So in a sense, not a perfect metaphor. I'm not on my metaphor game right now, but that's fine. You guys understand my point. That's kind of what Trump is doing here. He's exposing it. He's told us repeatedly that the stove is hot. And right now our hand is on the burner. It's on the burner. But instead of oh shit, I probably shouldn't do that. I'm going to learn my lesson and never do that again. We're like, oh, this is great. I don't need fingers anyway. Who the fuck cares? I'll put both my hands on here. Let's just make a hand sandwich. That's how it feels.
Yeah.
Not perfect metaphor, but hopefully that gets the point across.
Oh, Chris Paul just jumped into the chat with a good comment. Trump trying to destroy the uniparty and MAGA is trying to save the good half. And that's it. That's exactly what we're talking about, right? It's there is a premise that's not just us, that Donald Trump has laid out of the uniparty and of rhinos and fake MAGA, right? He doesn't necessarily call them fake Republicans, although it does still annoy me that he uses Republican terminology. I understand it on some levels, but I really do think we need to get beyond that. I think the term Republican needs to stop being used, because I really do think that every time he uses it, he lends energy to the brand of Republicanism. And it's then people could just put that brand on. But that said, MAGA has become a brand, right? We call it fake MAGA, faux MAGA. There's a ton of fake MAGA out there. But Trump calls out fake MAGA, and again, I think he needs to do more of it. But it is true. And this is why we talked about at the beginning of the show. It's been a theme of ours lately. This is why throughout 2025, we talked about being highly frictional at Badlands and how, we're going to call out the bullshit in the decode community and the Q community and the truth community, what we think is bullshit. And that's because if there's a threat there, I've been a broken record this month about the Trojan horse analogy, but as you said, it's the wolf in sheep's clothing. That's the threat, right? It's the Trojan horse in the gates. That's the threat. So when you've got Republicans who are calling themselves MAGA, crossing the aisle in a unity play against a core aspect of Donald Trump's economic agenda, call it the fuck out and stop blindly rooting for your team. And then when you see totally based in red-pilled Thomas Massie leading the witch hunt against Trump, essentially, through proxies when it comes to the Epstein files, maybe he's not that based and red-pilled.
No.
It's just a thought, but again, maybe I'm not trusting the plan hard enough.
He's a principled conservative.
Right.
Bright. He's got principles.
Trump does point out that he's got a weird situation going on with his marriage and his dead wife.
It took 14 months or something.
Yeah. Hey,
let's
Trump
not be insensitive.
Is that insensitive?
Okay? Let's not be insensitive.
Yeah. Isn't that funny though? Stuff we say, but then Trump says it, and it's now it's part of the plan, right?
Yeah. That just happened.
Part of the plan after Trump's. Yeah.
That happens all the time, I feel like.
Yeah.
And that's what's so annoying is people just refuse to think for themselves. They need to get the social permission to say the thing from Trump. It's guys, just fucking grow up here and think for yourself.
Yeah.
Trump called the OK governor a rhino today. Big posts.
Yeah, well, that's an example though. To use that, imagine we said that 1 week ago about I don't know anything about the Oklahoma governor, but let's say we were going on a rant about the Oklahoma governor, who's a Republican. Then half of MAGA watching would be freaking out that we're not trusting the plan.
Yeah.
You criticize Ron DeSantis. He's part of the plan. It's is he? Is he part of the plan? Right up until, he is right up until Donald Trump says otherwise. And then again, everybody gets permission to say, this is now the truth.
He's one of the less than 10,000,
Oh,
bro.
right.
Less than 10,000 part of the plan. But you're absolutely right. And here's the thing. He might be a rhino. He might not be. Trump will endorse him probably next after he just called him a rhino. Trump is as Chris says, he's like the lightning rod. He'll take both sides of the same issue. He'll play good cop and bad cop with the same issue so that we duke it out ourselves and actually figure, like the reason he does that is so that we figure it out for ourselves. And he's not doing it for us. Yet we continue to try to be spoon-fed. And some people will literally go from, oh, this guy is uniparty. He's the worst. We need to kick him out of here. Like MTG. When just a month prior to that, MTG was like everybody's favorite congresswoman because she said all the things that she liked. But as soon as Trump took an opposite opinion of her, everybody else followed. Now, if Trump came out next month and was like, oh, MTG is great. We shouldn't have had that spat. We could really use her in Congress. Everybody would just come right back over to the other side of the spectrum again without ever once thinking for themselves.
Yep.
And it probably sounds like we're whining sometimes, but this is an issue in an info war that needs to be addressed. If we don't, we keep burning our hand on the stove. Like, we need to address that at some point. And I think we only do it by calling it out ourselves when we see it.
Something I pointed out in recent weeks, and this is anecdotal, but it's just my observation. I really believe that 2 years ago, 2024, 23, etc., I very rarely saw truther accounts, whether that's MAGA, Badlander, Q person, whoever it was, using Republican terminology or using Democrat terminology. Mostly they were using MAGA terminology. And I think they have totally regressed. I see more posts lately about owning the libs and stopping the Democrats than I've seen since the first Trump epoch, like the 2015, 16. It made sense at that time. He rode the Republican Party into the zeitgeist. I think he did that because he knew that base was going to be far more receptive to the change operation than the left. And I think he was right about that. So it made total sense. We talked about this on a show a couple months ago. It made total sense to go to rhetorical war with, quote unquote, the left in those early days. That was a decade ago. Most truthers a few years ago were accurately talking about the uniparty. They were because it was easier to talk about when half of the uniparty, when the Republicans, remember, even though the Dems controlled the presidency during the Devo term, if you want to pretend that that's what was going on, there was still a lot of Republicans in Congress and in the Senate. So these are all the same people. And at that time, when Trump wasn't in power, people in the truth community were willing to call out anybody with an R next to their name because none of it felt like it was ours. None of it felt like it was MAGA. But suddenly Trump is in there, and now it's like, own the libs again, get as many retweets as you can, go on libs of TikTok, see what the funniest, most viral videos are about the Dems, and you're fighting the good fight. That's like 2016 era Twitter info war normie shit.
Yeah.
It just shows that a lot of people just wanted to get back to that. Like, they just wanted, dank memes and own the libs and feel good about voting red again.
Well, it's so terrible because, I wasn't even participating back then. But as I've been saying lately, and as Chris talks about, we talk about this, the social incentives right now are right back to where it was. Twitter hasn't changed. If that's what the social incentives were then, it's right back to that again. Only this time, you get paid for those social. So it's social and financial incentives for posting only positive things all the time.
Yep.
Only things that feed confirmation bias all the time. And it's unfortunate. But
we said last week, one of the posts, one of the decodes that Jordan, signal boosted on X last week had like 3-4 million impressions.
Yeah.
Monetized impressions on something that the poster then immediately backpedaled on and said, oh, I didn't mean that, right? It's like, well, you got paid for not meaning that.
You're a liar also.
Yeah, also you're a liar, but...
Yeah, there's a lot of that going around.
Yeah, there's a ton of it. But anyway, I think, I don't know, the studying thing here, we talked about this off air, but just in general speak, the good thing about what And what I'm proud of going to GARTs and being around Badlanders and the people who are in our audience and who engage with these conversations is it can seem harder to be a first principles consistent thinker when you're in the bullshit, like all of us kind of are right now. And when you're seeing the quote unquote truth community act the way they are, like a bunch of low IQ, grifting whores. But the good thing about maintaining those principles, the good thing about it is that you just get to keep being yourself and keep operating consistently. You don't have to adapt. You don't have to rebrand. You don't constantly have to try to backpedal off bullshit you've previously said. When we're wrong about stuff, we just say it. We're like, yeah, we're wrong about that. We didn't base our entire brand off of specific decodes.
You can speak for yourself. I haven't been wrong yet, but yeah, when you guys in Badlands are wrong, you'll just admit it, which is cool. But yeah, speaking of GART, guys, get your tickets, badlandsmedia.tv/events. Nashville, April 9th through the 12th. Going to be a fun and spicy one down there, I think. Going to get real salty. There's two things I want to point out, and then I'll let you talk about your whatever energy stuff for a little bit, and then we'll get through the rants. I got to show you this clip because it's hysterical. I should have played this when we were showing the $1 trillion fraud stuff, but take a listen to this.
While most Americans had to write a big fat check to the government today to pay their taxes, over 100,000 federal workers are not paying their taxes. In 2021, the IRS found that almost 150,000 federal workers owe about $1.5 billion in unpaid taxes. Over 5,000 of them work at the IRS and owe $50 million in overdue taxes. Even though the IRS can fire its workers that are not paying their taxes, only 20 people have been terminated. That double standard is something Senator Joni Ernst, Senate Doge Caucus chair, wants to stop. She's introducing several bills aimed at cleaning up the IRS. One bill would require IRS employees to be audited every year and fired if they don't pay their taxes. But while the IRS is not catching the tax cheats on their own payroll, they are busy arming their workforce. Ernst is also calling out 10 million taxpayer dollars the IRS has spent on guns and ammo, stockpiling 4,500 guns, 5 million rounds of ammo, even 15 machine guns.
Just think of the narratives here. It's like, one, there's like trillions of fraud every year. And we're getting stories and numbers from everybody like talking about it. Like fraud is the new black right now. It's ridiculous. Fraud everywhere. Everybody's talking about it. But then on the flip side of that, it's like, oh yeah, it's taxes week. Everybody make sure you get your taxes in again.
Yeah.
But then also right off the rip, but even like the tax people aren't actually paying their taxes. Like we have a bunch of people who are forcing you to pay your taxes
themselves to make sure taxes. You are. Yeah.
The narratives here are just absurd. It's like it's as absurd as it can get.
Yep. Ugh, yeah, and again, I respect and understand and envy the people who just proudly and openly do not pay their taxes. Right now, I'm still a system cuck. And the reason for that is because, the comedy, the kind of dark comedy you're pointing out here is it really depends on how much power projection you think this criminal organization known as the government has. That's what I think does get lost in the nuance. Very few people who are paying their taxes are doing so because they think it's the right thing to do. There are a worrying number. Maybe there's a worrying number of people who are like that. I would say maybe in the truth community, that's not common. You're not going to find like a truther who pays their taxes and feels good about doing their duty as a citizen. But a lot of the people who still do are like, yes, I agree with you that there is a criminal organization levying taxes upon me that will then ruin my life if I don't give them the tax money. But it is kind of that comedy approach or that strange contradiction with Donald Trump, where it's like 2025 in particular, I would say his thesis was the government is illegitimate. The administrative state is illegitimate. They're defrauding you. They're stealing from you. Your states are illegitimate, etc. And then it's like, okay, the big beautiful bill is going to increase my refund of the money that you helped facilitate the theft of from me?
While
That's what
increasing
we're doing,
spending
Donnie?
and increasing the deficit and the debt and
Yeah.
all these horrible, financial aspects. But don't worry, because the Dow is over 50,000. I don't know if you heard.
Yeah.
All you have to do is if you get in an argument, doesn't matter. You could you get in a car accident, you could accidentally run somebody over and just be like,
The Dow.
Dow's over 50K, man. What are you doing? You can't arrest me. Dow's over 50K.
Yeah,
it's
we
so
should just go to like suicide bridges and go up to a jumper.
Don't do it. The Dow's over 50.
Hey man.
Oh wait, never mind. It just dropped to 49. You can go for it. Ridiculous.
You've never heard of a brokerage, bro?
But speaking of what you're talking about, truthers and like tax or whatever, I've literally seen people in the truth community, like decoders, who are like, man, taxes suck so hard. Like I had to take out a loan this year to pay off my tax bill. And people have actually admitted that online. Like they've admitted to no longer having testicles that they use. Like it's just absurd, but they do it anyway.
Yeah.
They continue to
I
do
always say I like to rent a gimp suit.
Oh, that's right.
And pay my taxes. Put the ball gag in. Just to really get in character.
I got one more story to show you guys real quick. I won't even spend too much time on this, but I just think it's interesting. We got a report from the J6 committee this week. Or not a report. We got some declassified docs. And you guys know how I get about declassified documents. But this one in particular from Loudermilk talked about, you guys remember the tip report back in June of 2020? I talk about it in part 12 of my series. The Transition Integrity Project got together. They war gamed 4 scenarios surrounding the election. It was like clear Biden win, clear Trump win. I don't remember the other 2. One was like close one way and close the other way. And somehow all of them ended with Biden in office. Like the one with the clear Trump win, you had 3 states threatening secession and governors sending alternate slates of electors. One of them ended with the Secret Service dragging Trump out of the White House. Like just the most absurd stuff. But they were clearly doing some narrative seeding for what was to come and clearly showing that they were not going to allow Trump to win. I think that's part of the reasons like he ended up ultimately walking away is to avoid the fallout from some of the stuff that they were preparing. Well, the same month that they did that tabletop exercise at the Transition Integrity Project, the FBI did their own tabletop exercise having to also do with a disputed 2020 election. June 2020, FBI Boston, so this is up in your neck of the woods, they did a tabletop exercise identifying a range of potential scenarios of domestic violent extremism activity responsive to a disputed 2020 U.S. presidential election. You cannot convince me that these 2 things are not connected. It's too much of a coincidence. I haven't done the digging to see if there's any actual like overlap, like, maybe they work in the same NGO now or did before or whatever. Wouldn't surprise me at all. But while you have the narrative being laid out by the Transition Integrity Project, you had some of the actual back end stuff getting prepared to set up the false flag to follow through on the narrative seeding that was done by the Transition Integrity Project. So crazy shit.
Well, it's another more mature, these types of things. The tabletop gaming that we're talking about with that they are talking about rather openly, the system, the machine. That's my conception of trust the plan, and that there is a plan on our side. That used to be, in my opinion, a much more ubiquitous take in the truth community, in the Q community especially, of saying like, yeah, game theory, that's the plan. The plan is that, we know the enemy's playbook. We've known, you're talking about the tip report here as one example. We've seen a million things. The election was fortified, et cetera. So over the intervening years, from the advent of Trump and the Q drops, we've seen literal evidence that the system has playbooks. So it stands to reason, if you know that, then yeah, you could come up with an intelligence plan, a 5th gen warfare plan to subvert, invert, counter the enemy playbook. But the mature way of looking at that, I think, has always been this cascading if-then type of game theory. We literally know, to your point, that is how the deep state operates. Oh. They don't know exactly which scenario they are going to implement. They don't know which tranche of the plan they're going to implement because they don't know exactly which sort of attack vector the other side, our side, is going to use. It's you can just reverse that. It shouldn't be controversial to say that you think that there is a plan that Trump and Patriots have, maybe entering November 3rd, 2020. You know, I don't know if you'd agree, but I think, you know, I feel like they knew with reasonable certainty that they were going to take the path they did, Patriots, I mean Donald Trump, regarding the 2020 election. But it's possible that there were other options there that they were considering.
Oh, I think it's a definite.
That they were considering other options.
Yeah, I mean, they had to have. Like, they didn't. I don't know when they started planning devolution. I used to get asked this question all the time.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's only speculation, but I mean, they could have implemented the Insurrection Act. Maybe they did. You know, we don't know. I think they could have obviously just like laid their balls on the table and been like, well, we're just not going to let this happen. We're not going to let you guys actually get away with this. I think they had all the evidence to do it, and they could have dealt with the ramifications then, or something like devolution. Maybe there was a million other options. But I do know or strongly believe that the enemy thought Trump was going to do something different other than walk away because of how they responded and what they did on January 6th. January 6th is just one part of it. And then the immediate aftermath of that, of how they buried everything he said on Twitter, on social media. They immediately rushed to impeach him. They fabricated, like, you wouldn't have to fabricate the whole thing if you weren't concerned that Trump still had moves left to play. And that's why I think they did it. And then afterwards, like, they've still been so concerned about what Trump could expose about 2020. That's why it accounted for all the bullshit political persecution that we saw against him while Biden was in office, because they were still trying to like get him on that stuff so that he could never expose it. They're trying to cement that narrative in the opposite direction, but they obviously didn't get away with it. So
yeah, and this is how game theory works. You know, there's two players in game theory. And, you know, people use that as such a catch-all term. It's like, oh, game theory. Patriots are using game theory. So is the enemy. Everybody's using game theory. That's what tabletop exercises are, right? Like, sometimes when we talk about game theory, we think that patriots, in the context of elections, let's just say, and legitimacy of government, I think it's reasonable and logical to assert that our side is the infinite player in game theory, if for no other reason than the fact that they are the rightful winners of the election. They have the actual mandate of the people, right? You play, if you keep the concept of an infinite player, though, an infinite player can lose. I think this is what gets lost sometimes in earnestly, like it gets lost in the conversations about game theory and infinite players. So like, oh, Trump's the infinite player. That doesn't mean don't worry about it. That means as long as mistakes are not made and unforeseen counters do not crop up, the infinite player will win if the game goes on long enough. That's how that works, which lends credence to the idea, you know, we're talking about 2020 and why did Trump do what he did? You've often said essentially to avoid a worse outcome, right? You've said civil war, but let's just say to avoid a worse outcome. But it's really more to avoid a worse path to a worse branch of outcomes in game theory. Once you move the rook to a certain place on the chessboard, you can't undo that move. You have put the board in a different position. So I think a lot of what 2020 was, from the perspective of Trump and the devolution operation in particular, it was intentionally extending the game. And I think that might sound counterintuitive to a lot of MAGA people and Q people and truthers, because they're like, well, don't we want to end this, right? The sooner we end this and win, the less damage ostensibly is done to the American people. I think these are probably conversations and strategy meetings that have been going on at levels we'll never know for a decade and more, right? But why would you extend? If you think you're the infinite player, a longer game benefits you the longer it goes. We'll see. And I would hazard a guess that this probably goes right through 2026. I don't expect a miraculous everything is solved before 2026, but you know, we'll see. These things are you know, I don't think it's a binary of like we either won the plan or we lost the plan. But yeah, these things are iterative, and I don't know, I wanted to make that point just because I think we use game theory terminology a lot in infinite players, and people are just like that means you're invincible. The person who has the winning plays in a game of chess can lose. Yeah, it's just you know, they shouldn't.
You know, we've talked about this metaphor before, and I do love it, but there's like, to tweak it a little bit, it's like you're playing chess, but you also have the pieces on the board that themselves can move sometimes. You know what I mean? Like like while you have one side moving a chess piece and the other side moving a chess piece, you could have your pieces move forward or backward or make moves on the table out of turn, out of order, just whenever they want to or can. And that's where we come in. And a lot of the times Trump and the Patriots are like, we're gonna do this one thing to try to get the piece to move here. And the piece is just like, cool, that's a good idea. I love that. But I'm not going
right here.
I'm gonna stay right here. It's like, well, in order for us to take their rook, we need this to move just one space forward here. We're trying to get him in checkmate. And we're the part of the game board that is inadvertently sometimes adversely affecting the moves that our side is trying to make. That's kind of how I see it.
That's a damn. I hate to say that's good. That's a nice. I like that. You know, in typical chess and game theory, obviously you're trying to bait enemy moves. So, in a binary sense, you're not in control of the whole game board just by definition. We've been talking about that for years. But yeah, you know, we're talking about public mandate, and our role in the plan as the American people. Then you could think of us as the board itself, right? Not even just the pieces. It's kind of like one of the things I've said in my writing for years is the battle space is the collective mind, right? It's like, yeah, there's the political battle space and all that kind of stuff, but you can think of the mindscape as also where the battle is being fought.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, yeah, he's trying to provoke pieces into moving, but it's almost like they're operating when the game board itself is constantly changing, like what the board even looks like, what they're playing on.
Yeah.
Which that can sound negative, and that's very difficult if you're them. I'm sure they get pissed off all the time. The cool way of thinking about that, though, is that the enemy's playing on that same board, right? And you think like, you know what? If we can just fuck things up for them, we're also helping extend and benefit the Patriot Plan, or accelerate it. Maybe it's the opposite, right? Maybe it's where we're helping accelerate these things.
And had a really good narrative, though. I don't know if you made it better or not. Really good metaphor. I made your metaphor better.
That's what the edits are for.
Yeah, that's true. We'll just edit your part out of there.
Yeah.
Man, I know you were really excited to talk about some energy stuff, but
yeah,
I'm not confident you can get through it quickly.
It is pretty quick, actually. I don't know if many people saw this. If you've been reading the Badlands brief, you already saw some takes on this. Badlands.substack.com.
Hell yeah.
You see Ghost freaking out about the Jews every day. We're going to put him on a quota. Because Ash and I now, we're in the Badlands newsletter channel, and it's like submitting topics throughout the day and going back and forth. Which topic do you want to cover? Which topic do you? And both of us just like say, oh, Goes, you take the Jews like every day, because we know that's what he's going to take.
Yeah, it's really funny.
Get a new gimmick, Ghost.
When I told you about the whole ball bank thing from the Epstein files being confirmed, today Ghost is like, he found a tweet, and it was a source of authority that was like, see, John was right. It's been confirmed now, and it was freaking RT. It's like, you could have just looked at what I posted, and that was all the confirmation needed. But no, it was officially confirmed when RT confirmed that, yes, it was not actually ball as the bank name. I thought it was hilarious. But anyway.
Well, as I say, I don't always love state-run propaganda, but the Russian flavor is good. It's my favorite of state propaganda.
I may have to have a conversation real quick before we get into it. A conversation with Ghost, because we're kind of in an awkward position now that on last Saturday's show, we have identified as illegal alien, black, tranny Jews. So
wait,
some of the things
we are? Oh, you and Chris.
Badlands. Yeah, well, no, Bad Jew, badjew.com, Bad Jew Media. So some of the things Ghost says is a little antithetical to our current assumed identities. And if we are going to financially benefit from this by, illegal aliens, we get just free welfare and all sorts of free shit. By being black, we can move to California and get reparations now. By being tranny, I don't know what we get that.
We get off on mass murder, I think.
Yeah, something like that.
We don't want to do that, though. So.
But then the Jew thing is like, anybody who disagrees with us, we get a blanket, you're an anti-Semitic. And then also, I think there's some funds there too. Like we get money from Congress and money from other things. And, so only positives. The one negative is now we have to figure out what to do with Ghost.
Yeah.
So,
tighter household budgets too. We get a lot better at budgeting. I think
Do we?
just
Oh man, that'll be nice.
we just get better. You'll start to like, it takes time, right? Because it's a big change that you're identifying as now, but you'll just start tightening up. You know, you'll go to the store and you'll be like, you know what, honey, put down the Gouda and pick up the Kraft.
Do we have to eat kosher?
Then you'll know when you do that the first time, you'll be like, there it is.
Do we have to eat kosher though?
I don't even know what that is. You know what? Most Jew things, I don't even get it.
Yeah. I guess if I'm being totally honest, I'm not sure what it means either, but I know it's something you say when you're.
I think it's like if like a pig can't wash your food or something like that.
Okay.
No pigs can be involved in making kosher pickles.
I don't have any pigs.
Almost certain that's, well,
we're
there's a
nailing
horsehair brush. You couldn't have that actually. That might not be a kosher brush.
It's so funny. Like I just put out that video last week of, hey, Trump, please give me an interview. And then like immediately afterwards, it's like, we are now African-American illegal alien tranny Jews. And so yeah, definitely going to get that interview now. But screw it. We are who we are.
It's in the bag.
You know what? It makes Trump anti-Semitic if he doesn't interview me now. I can start saying that.
It does, yeah. Yeah.
Sorry, I'll stop interrupting.
Right, which is going to put a whole damper on all his little luncheons with Bibi.
Yeah, wait till we start telling people how anti-Semitic he's been towards us by not interviewing me.
That'll get us back in the tent on Big Left.
Unacceptable. Anyway, let's.
So I think it was yesterday, but there was a little bit of reading going on about some climate rescissions that Donald Trump was making. So, well, they've signaled this. They're supposed to hold a press conference, I think, on Thursday with Lee Zeldin talking about this. But the main thing that is going to be rescinded, yes, there it is the 2009 EPA endangerment finding. So a lot of the headlines about this was just like, Trump is rolling back climate change, Green New Deal, blah, blah. Yeah, that's part of it. But this is a big white pill, I think. Ash wrote a little bit about this in the brief this morning. The 2009 EPA endangerment finding was Obama. Kind of interesting timing too, like right when he came in, right when he walked in the doors. He put this forth, which essentially defined greenhouse gases as harmful. It officially defined that. The media sphere had been talking about this, obviously, for decades, and certainly since we were kids. But I got a quote here. The finding, rooted in the 2007 Supreme Court decision, sorry everybody, which was in Massachusetts versus EPA, mandated the EPA to regulate greenhouse gases under the Clean Air Act. It provided the legal foundation for major Obama and Biden-era climate policies, including vehicle emission standards, power plant rules, and other greenhouse gas restrictions across industries. So, right there, you think, okay, rescinding that is good, right? Win for MAGA. It's going to be huge because when you start digging into the second order effects of that 2009 directive, trillions upon trillions in government spending all funnels through that directive. All of these different government spending programs basically come through the need to fight this existential threat that is the climate crisis. And the reason the legal reason the government gets away with all these things is because it is officially designated. It made me think of like threats to the country. You often talk about threats to the homeland, right? Like national security. Mm-hmm. That's pretty much what this did on an environmental level. The government can be like, well, officially codified in law, greenhouse gases are a threat to national security. So we can tax the fuck out of you. And really, it's second order effects. Who they've been taxing is companies. So whether your energy companies are the biggie, but car manufacturers, it's not just monetary inflation. The reason that a Toyota costs $50,000 now, where 20 years ago it cost $15,000, it's because of all the EPA standards that the car manufacturers have to put into these vehicles. Like that stupid, you've talked about it before, the start-stop feature on all your cars that are destroying your engines, by the way, and destroying the life of the engine, that's an EPA mandate.
Yeah.
And putting that into cars that isn't just expensive, it literally lowers the life of the engine, which is expensive. And, you know, there are so many effects. If you, what I did earlier today, if you start talking to AI about all the second order effects of this 2009 EPA mandate, it's incredible the cost that shows up in your pocket, or rather out of your pocket. Like state and local taxes have all this shit threaded throughout it.
Wow.
Excise taxes, income taxes are all about this. So the white pill on this is it's going to be rescinded, right? So, you know, you save a lot of money on the one end, but it's on both sides. It's going to help supercharge the drill baby drill accelerationist energy mindset that Trump has been laying out. A lot of the reasons that a lot of these energy projects, domestic energy projects, could not ramp up or afford to ramp up and expand the way Trump keeps saying they need to is because of this mandate. So now it's like the chains are coming off. You're going to get a deflationary effect on one end where we're not going to be paying climate taxes. But on the other end, you're going to get an accelerating effect of energy, car manufacturing, cheaper manufacturing in the country. And I thought the one more thing on this, I'm going to write a whole thing about this on my Substack sometime in the next few weeks. I think I will. I always say that and then I don't.
While you're doing that real quick, I just want to point out, I talked about this on my show today. The main story on The Guardian at the top was point of no return. A hellish hothouse, Earth getting closer, scientists say. So interesting timing.
Yeah, it's been a freezing winter. They picked a great time for that
It's actually really nice here right now. It was like 50s today.
It's not bad today, but it has been brutal. So I saw these headlines that came out, you know, all at the same time in the last few days. White House eyes data center agreements amid energy spikes. We have Democrats gain an edge as poll shows doubts on Trump energy strategy. And the reason I thought it was interesting timing is those features that were running in all, like Wall Street Journal was the major ones leading the charge, Politico, all of them, right? They all were targeting Trump's energy policies when it comes to the data center stuff we've been talking about and all the infrastructure plans he has. And they all sent out those attack dogs the day before he announces we're rescinding the 2009 EPA rule. So I think they know that Meta and Amazon and all the rest of these globalist corporations that Trump seems to have brought to heel, they know that we're right and that those are being used as golden age accelerators, and that the way they're going to do that is he's cutting all that red tape for them and basically using them to power the golden age. And then the headline that I loved the most, because I wrote this 2 years ago, was from, what the hell is it? This was from the Wall Street Journal. Even Trump can't go back to the future. To MAGA, the 1950s were a better time, but the White House can't bring it back. And it's not the most popular thing I ever wrote, but my favorite thing from a couple years ago was called Amerigeddon that I wrote. And it was all a theory of how I thought Trump was going to pivot us hard toward nuclear energy to get us back on the 1950s timeline, is what I say in there, because Eisenhower and John F. Kennedy were trying to warp speed accelerate Americans down a nuclear energy future. They take out JFK. I'm not saying that was the only reason. They subvert Eisenhower, and then they spend every decade, you have 3 Mile Island, Chernobyl, Fukushima, all these terror events, like, you know, terror narratives, demonizing nuclear. And now the media is telling you, no matter how hard you try, Trump, you're not getting back to 1950s nuclear energy output. So, you know, I think we are, and I think all this is kind of threading together at the same time for the sort of like warp speed. It can happen faster than you think. Switch theory we've been talking about for years.
Yeah. Interesting stuff. Love it. I'm not going to spend too much time commenting on it though, because I'm ready to read rants and stuff. But I do want to point out today we had a story where Russia is basically like, okay, I know the START treaty's done, but if the U.S. pinky promises not to like do anything bad, then we'll also pinky promise to not do anything bad. And I thought that was hysterical. Like Russia
Almost
says
like,
they'll continue doing the terms of the START Treaty, even though it's not even in place.
Exactly.
It's like they're not real in the first place.
And the other irony about that narrative is it's a big sovereign alliance proof to me, because Trump has been publicly saying he'll only consider a new treaty if China's involved.
That's true.
So he wants China at the table with Russia and the U.S. And it's like, oh, that's so weird.
Sorry, man. I'm crashing fast. Got to get with the kids. Boosts. Let's do a couple of these real quick. 1027JS says for $20. Hello, guys. Hello, Joe, my fellow North Dakotan. Then we also have W. Willman becoming a Badlander, which, by the way, that means monthly support, which we truly appreciate. As I said earlier in the show, we don't get the financial and social incentives like the cheerleaders of the Black Pillars.
Yep.
It's not always the easiest road to take trying to pursue the truth, but we're able to do it because of you guys. You guys are awesome. And becoming a Badlander, supporting us monthly, whether that's here or on Rumble or on Substack or wherever, it is truly appreciated. So for $100 a month, they said, thank you both. Love the show. Gives me hope that things are actually happening.
Nice.
We appreciate you. And then we got rants as well. Pick up where I left off before whoever it was earlier derailed me from reading them.
We're about to read.
Yeah, I got them checked. Also, for those who gifted subscriptions, we appreciate that. Also, do us a favor, hit that thumbs up. We appreciate that as well. Q Awakening says, Save Act, it's like going into the mechanic with a dying car and coming away with a paint job and new hubcaps, maybe even a hydraulic suspension.
Brought a little tear to my eye today. Mrs. Bright and Baby Bright went up to like this little play place in the mall. And they took the car on the highway, and I just went through a whole tire fiasco last week. But I got new tires. I bit the bullet and bought nice new tires. She messaged me while she's driving on the highway. She's like, these tires are great.
She could tell while driving? How bad
She
were
might
your
have just been
tires
trying to make me
before?
feel better about it.
Yeah.
Well, they were stock tires, but the reason they started to suck on the highway is because I patched the same tire twice with emergency patches. And if you went over like 60, you'd start to get a bit of a wobble.
Yeah, that's not nice. Not good.
So anyway, but every man loves to hear his woman talking about the tires that he sacrificed a great deal for.
Makanon for $5 says, cheers to being perpetually ostracized. Hell yeah.
Yeah, get out of here.
Keith O'Higgins for $1 says, I wake up every day to my Alex Jones alarm clock. I usually just roll over and hit my Bondi strongly worded snooze button. Touche. Brandon Post for $30 says, appreciate you guys. Keep up the good fight. Thank you. Appreciate that. Data 12 for $1. Well, I know it's a conspiracy, but what if if Epstein is one of the bet placers against the businesses that suffered on 9/11? I don't know.
There's probably a lot of those. He could be one among many.
Could be. Keith O'Higgins for $1 says, John, to be fair, Trump brought up Epstein when he made Alex Acosta labor secretary. Maybe Trump nominated Alex to bring fair labor rights to underage sex workers. I don't know if that's true or if that's a joke. Anyway, NGK for $5. Everyone could do this. Go to Grok or other and type this. Did Trump ever make Epstein files part of his campaign rally? Grok told me no. It's because it's true. D-Mob for $50 says, BB, loved your spicy rant Sunday and you guys discussions. Greetings from Alaska.
Thank you. The gist of that one was about babysitting and whether or not you got into the truth movement to be babysat. You know, because on some level, if you take trust the plan rhetoric to its extreme, which is what we're responding to, there is literally, by your own logic, nothing that you can do and nothing that you should do, because anything you could do might disrupt the plan that you strongly believe in, right? That nothing can stop, right? So, in other words, you're here to be babysat.
It's literally the Twitter post I showed you guys earlier, where the guy was like, there's really not anything to do except opine. The shift will change everything. When it comes time to vote, follow directions and vote your conscience. No one can change the outcome.
Okay. And you're the doomer.
Yeah, but I'm the doomer black pillar
Yeah.
for not trusting the plan. It's ridiculous. The Q Awakening for $1. If there's a difference between something being a hoax and fake, what does it mean that Russia collusion was a hoax and not fake? A hoax is, to me, hoaxes from Trump are like, it's a narrative warfare weapon that the enemy has put forth. That's what the Russia collusion was. It's a narrative weapon of the enemy. It was a hoax. Fake is like, yeah, that's just not real. It's fake. Fake news, not real media.
The way I think of this with Epstein, there's many different readings of it, but what I was right when I wrote the honeypot hoax, the concept there is you can still believe that the Epstein ring is what you thought it was. The hoax is the narrative that it's been turned into. And it's been so poisoned. And again, that's just one reading of it. The other reading of it is that much of the narrative about it is entirely fake. But you could still call it a hoax and say, because Trump is doing both right now. He's saying it's a hoax and Democrats are getting damaged by it, right? So it's like he's kind of saying both things like he often does. And again, he's not signal boosting the Epstein stuff, but he's just saying the Democrats. And it's like, but it's a hoax. Mm-hmm. Well, my reading of that is him saying the narrative weaponization of it is a hoax. It has been turned into a hoax. Same end result.
Keith Higgins for $1. John, if you have female congressmen spending our tax money, then it is broad fraud. Love it. Keith Higgins' big question has been, if the uniparty tries to hang Donald Trump, does Mike Pence help build the gallows? Ooh, it's a spicy one.
Disavow.
Julie JN, can you guys spoon feed me your opinions on Bannon? Because I'm really confused. Thought he was a good guy. Thank you, gentlemen. This is all I'll say. I talked about this on my show a little bit. I am not going to, do you notice how anytime anything happens, nobody actually ever uses the 72-hour rule. Nobody ever actually tries to use discernment. They just jump down somebody's throat immediately. Always. Always. And whenever I see that happening, I recognize, you know what, there's probably a psyop here, and I'm just going to withhold judgment. And what I have noticed is that every time the mob has reached a fever pitch going after Bannon, there's been something from the Trump administration or Trump himself on True Social that has come to Bannon's defense. 2 weeks ago, we had that picture of these two men have been through so much or something. Him and Navarro. And then just 2 days ago, right after everybody's going after Bannon again for stuff in the files, we have the Trump administration coming out saying that they are going to, rescind the indictments and stuff against him for what he went to jail for and stuff. We're going to talk about more about that on Saturday's Power Hour. But also, last thing, to claim that you guys or for anybody to claim that they know with certainty anything that's actually going on is absurd. We can guess, we can speculate, we can take evidence and try to figure it out. We always seek the truth. But as much as the bad shit looks in the Epstein files from Bannon, it is just as possible that he was doing that to try to get him arrested. We don't know what Trump knew. We don't know what Trump or what Bannon was saying, whether he was saying it earnestly or disingenuously to get closer to Epstein. We don't know. And so I'm not going to immediately jump down his throat or jump on the bandwagon that everybody wants me to get on because I'm a stubborn asshole, one, but two, because it's clearly some sort of psyop. I'm going to just wait and see things. If it turns out Bannon's a bad dude, then so be it. Right now, it does me no good to get on board with that just because everybody wants to. And it's the hip thing to do. Fuck that.
Yep. Yeah, well said. And, the other name besides Steve Bannon that's really being, I would say more so, that's being attacked is Howard Lutnick. And I don't know if Lutnick's a good guy or not. I have my leanings. I've been signal boosting his commentary a lot over the last couple of years. But hey, one of the indicators I use of just where I lean on things is the timing we talked about earlier. Who made the biggest headlines in a positive way for this community last week and the week before in Davos? Howard Lutnick, right? He goes into the Den of Vipers and he tells the World Economic Forum to their faces, more bluntly than Donald Trump did in some of the clips that you play from his first term. globalism is over. The age of globalism is over. The American people are done with it. And then a week later, he's in every major headline across all globalist media rags. Why is the truth community jumping all over him? I don't know. I mean, I don't know if he's a good guy or not. I'm just saying it's a lack of consistency, to say the least.
Yeah, it's just so funny to me. Everybody's like, we're in an info war. We're in a psyop. It's the Great Awakening. But then immediately fall for every...
Did you see what CNN said?
Every conclusion about everything, like without actually knowing any of the context behind the scenes stuff. It's like, that guy's a whitehead. I know, and just talking broadly, like they'll point at somebody and be like, well, that guy's probably a whitehead. It's the only reason to explain why Trump would do this. Yeah. But then they don't think for a second that's possibly what's going on here. Like it's just absurd the way people spin themselves into logical pretzels without even realizing they're doing it just by how they operate on social media because the social incentives require them to operate that way. Anyway, sorry, let's keep going here. Nevada runner, go Patriots for $10. Sorry, Burning Bright.
How dare you?
Patriots,
yeah, that was bad.
Keith O'Higgins for $1. The IRS debacle shows that the government still hires retarded people. The retarded agents are still paying taxes. Love it. Angie K for $1. The guns for IRS goes along with Josh Hawley clip. The guns are for the terrorists like the cartels, not the IRS agents. Could be Angie. Likely. Keith O'Higgins for $1. Burning Bright, get smart about renting your GIMP suit. Get a rent-to-own suit with a big anal balloon payment.
I like where your head's at. It's about the value, deep value.
And the anal balloon, for sure.
Yep.
Payment, anal balloon payment, I meant. Keith O'Higgins, hopium, dopium, and copium just make money selling them and their rugs. Yep. Yeah. Love it.
They're dealers.
They sound like dwarves, or were they dwarves from which Sleeping Beauty, or which story was it? Yeah, Sleeping Beauty.
Dopey, and
hopium, dopium, and copium.
Right.
And, Julie JN for $5 says, thank you. I was thinking it was a psyop as well. Bannon could have been saying that as a trap. Yes, Lutnick was also a question. Just if everybody's trying to get you emotionally upset about one person, you are being psyoped. Everything you see always is a psyop. Yeah. Just don't fall for it. Stand off the rug, look at it objectively, look at both sides of it. It's probably somewhere in between.
Well, here's the other thing. Let's use Lutnick as an example. Let's say that it turns out Howard Lutnick provably is what all the worst dastardly stories are saying, right? Just as a thought experiment. Does that mean that what he said on the stage in Davos is incorrect or wrong? No. Which is why we use the term first principles, and I sometimes get asked, like, what do you mean by that? It's a value set. It's a logos, and it's a value set. So if a globalist like Mark Carney gets on stage and starts talking about power is power, he's correct. Everything he says is correct in the context of that speech. Mm-hmm. You can still learn by observing that if you are observing him through a first principles mindset. But most people observe these things through an emotional mindset. So if they like Howard Lutnick, they like everything he says. If they don't like Mark Carney, they dismiss everything he says. But you can actually learn a lot by listening to what your enemy is saying. Yeah. So it's another reason, just to, besides what you're saying, of that we literally do not know what's in these people's hearts, the good, the white hats, the black hats, everybody in between. You don't need to know, is my point. You can engage with what they are saying publicly. For example, when Donald Trump advocates for election reform, I agree with the principles he is putting forth. When he advocates for the Republican Party, I may understand what he's doing from a game theory lens, or believe I think I know what he's doing, but I don't have to agree with that. And that's just the difference between principled stances and cheerleading.
Yes. And this is the last thing I'm going to say, and then we're going to get you guys out of here. Actually, I'm going to say one thing. We're going to do one more Rumble Studio ad because we're still here and might as well. And then we'll need an outro video.
I have one queued up. It's short.
Perfect. When you look at the Bannon stuff, okay, like the messages that are coming out that don't look good, you can look at it and be like, okay, this is This is the true Bannon now. This is how Bannon actually feels about all this stuff. And that's how a lot of people are looking at it. The other way to look at it, and you could look at it like multiple different ways, but the other reading of it is that he was being somebody to this person in order to get close to that person for whatever motive or reason you could think of. But like in your own situation, if I really wanted to get a job at Microsoft and I knew a guy there, and in order for me to do that, you know, my personal conversations with him, I'm going to talk shit. Like he's talking shit about Apple. So I'm going to talk shit about Apple too. And just like hide my phone. Like, oh shit, I have an Apple phone and all these things. Like you will operate a certain way when you're with certain people. If you have goals with those people. Now, when you're trying to decipher which one is which, we may never know. But the signal is how Trump is interacting, seeing this stuff unfold. Because if all this stuff is a surprise to Trump and he had no idea that Bannon was like saying these things behind Trump's back and talking about Trump like this, then we'll probably see some sort of reaction from Trump that's like, well, holy shit, I couldn't believe it. And then like he won't signal boost Bannon anymore. Maybe we'll see a direct like, fuck this guy type thing. But if we don't see that, and instead we're getting like, okay, well, here's a True Social post about Bannon. And oh, here's a DOJ like letting Bannon off the hook about the fake and gay indictment thing. Those are good reverse indicators showing that, yeah, maybe it's not what we think it is. Like there are times also in private conversations where people just say things that they won't say elsewhere. Like I've talked shit about BB, voicing frustration, like, man, this guy, you just won't shut up. He interrupted me a bunch tonight, and I'm just pissed.
Never say that to me.
But I see that to your face in front of everybody as well. So like some people don't say the things to the people in to their face either. But you know what I mean? Like that's the point I'm trying to make is we don't know the actual motives. If anybody does, it's Trump, and we're gonna have to look at his signal regarding the Bannon situation to decipher whether or not Bannon is one thing or another. And that's another thing about it too is Trump, we can never take what he says at face value because he's constantly doing psyops. So even that isn't pure signal. It's just wait and see. Look at how they operate on a day-to-day basis, like Bannon. Like I think a lot of signal. And that's what draws me to some of the stuff he says. I don't watch him because I don't have time. But when I see clips that are signal, like shit, that's signal. I agree with that. That feels right. And that's all I have on Bannon. Okay.
Well, just a button on relevant to how this show
you
starts
always need
off.
the last word, don't you?
Well, you just reminded me. Bannon wrote the speech that starts this show, right? So to everything you just said, even if we find out that Steve Bannon's deep state the whole time and it was an enemies closer situation, do you guys still believe in everything Donald Trump said in that speech? Because I sure do. Mm-hmm. So whether that doesn't mean the speechwriter is automatically good, but it means the principles expressed in the speech are good.
Yeah. Also, Mr. Spaghetti in the chat says it's the Badlands way to not get emotional whenever you hear a story. And I know for you women, that's probably very difficult to do, but that is the
Screeching like
Badlands
Pam
way.
Bondi in a hearing.
It's the menstruation. Tracks the bears. Okay, real quick Rumble Studio ad because we can. And then we'll get you guys out of here with whatever awesome outro video that BB has waiting for us. They can freeze your accounts. They can shut off your cards. They can lock you out of your own money overnight. Banks don't protect you. They control you. That's why real financial freedom starts with ownership. Introducing Rumble Wallet, a non-custodial wallet built for people who refuse to give up control. With Rumble Wallet, you don't just buy digital currency like Bitcoin and Tether. You can own Tether Gold, real gold on the blockchain. Through Tether Gold, you can get direct ownership of physical gold bars, each one fully allocated, verifiable by serial number, purity, and weight. This isn't paper gold. This isn't an IOU. This is real gold without bank vaults, storage fees, or gatekeepers. You can buy, sell, or move it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, even when traditional gold markets are closed. And if you want, Tether Gold can be redeemed for physical gold. That is real power. And when you support creators on Rumble, you can tip them directly using Rumble Wallet, a peer-to-peer and outside the banking system. No permissions, no middleman, no cancel button. This wallet is yours forever. And Steph Asia says, notice John doesn't say that with Ash around. I've said that multiple times.
I am ruthlessly sexist directly to Ash all the
My
time.
favorite time to be sexist is when I know Ash is watching.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. Chris Paul will be joining me Sunday night on The Narrative.
Nice.
So look forward to that. We'll probably talk about narratives.
Awesome. And I'll be back on my show tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern on the Daily Herold. So make sure you guys tune into that. Buzz through some headlines, maybe get a little salty about some whatever bullshit's going on and see what happens.
Nice sell.
Yeah. That's just the truth. So anyway, let's see this awesome outro video. Right. You guys hit that thumbs up. We'll see you next time.
Is called When Two Vague Posters Meet. And I saw it the other night. I just thought of it when you were talking about social media incentives.
Awesome. Okay. See you, everybody.
Bro, that's specifically insane. You're ridiculous. You just don't get it. No, whatever. Well, you know, the truth is, it wasn't cheating, but it wasn't nothing. Oh, big scandal. If you know, you know. I mean, yeah, I do. But I should have known better. People always show their true colors. Right, because the worst part is, they did it to themselves. But it's like, no one even cares anymore. Fool me twice, shame on me, I guess. You will not believe who I just saw. Wait, who'd you see? I mean, yeah, so glad she's doing well. New places, new opportunities, I hear. You know what? I think it's time we finally talk about it. Exactly. Everyone finally knows who did it. Okay, like, let's all just air it out. Like, what happened? Oops, looks like they started dropping bombs again. Can I get some fucking context? I mean, yeah. I specifically know what you're talking about. Good for you. It's an inflection point, to be sure. Good thing they're bringing back the $5 4-piece deal again. Yo, where's that at? Never mind. I know precisely what you're talking about. Good, because I have to tell you something. No, wait, I can't. Because I already know what went down, and I'm flabbergasted. Big shift coming. Cataclysmic, if true. I know who started this whole vague posting thing. Wait, how did it start? Motherfucker! Shit. I'll just move in silence then. You're paying for my therapy. Bro,